Audio doesn't lie. Law enforcement interviews. On February 7th, 2020, Boston police responded to a call about a man with a gun outside Women and Brigham's Hospital. That man was 41-year-old Justin Root. Unarmed, Root was seeking help for a mental health episode. He was carrying a clear plastic paintball gun, which police mistook for a handgun. Ignoring protocol, law enforcement closely approached Root, shooting him multiple times. An injured Root took off in his car and was chased for over 3 miles until Root lost control and crashed after an illegal pit maneuver by law enforcement. After stumbling into a parking lot and collapsing, police surround and shoot 31 rounds at an injured, unarmed man who clearly posed no danger and desperately needed medical treatment. The following are audio recordings of interviews with law enforcement officers who fired 31 shots, killing Justin Root on February 7th, 2020. First interview with Boston Police Officer David Godin.
My name is Lieutenant Gerard Mattaliano, Mattaliano. Today's date is Wednesday, February 12th. Time is 10:15 a.m. And we're here today investigating the lethal force investigation that occurred on February 7th in Brookline, Massachusetts.
For record, Attorney Kenneth Anderson, and if I could just take a minute, just put something on the tape to memorialize the conversation I had with District Attorney Mark Lee from the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. I'd like to just state on the record that myself and Officer Godin here voluntarily, we understand he has certain rights and protections, and we're waiving those rights and protections and are here to give a voluntary statement. Good.
David Godin, Godin, police officer for the city of Boston.
My name is John Broderick. I'm a sergeant detective. I'm assigned to the Boston Police Firearms Discharge Investigative Team.
Officer Godin, if you could, on February 7th, could you just tell us what your patrol area was that day?
My assignment that day was the Bravo 457, which is the Mission Hill sector of District 2.
And Officer Godin, how many years have you been a Boston police officer?
I've been with the Boston police officer for 13 years.
And do you have any special training?
I have specific training in narcotics investigations specifically. I was assigned to the drug unit for approximately 3 years.
If I could just interrupt, I don't want to take you, but before becoming a Boston police officer, fair to say you worked for another department?
Yes, I was a police officer in Tewksbury for 7 years.
So just for the record, you have 20 years total service in law enforcement?
Correct, sir.
Okay, on or about the 7th, at some point during that morning, you respond to a phone call over by the Brigham, a dispatch call to the Brigham and Women's Hospital?
I did, yes.
Why don't you tell us how that went down?
When that call came in, I was on Brookline Ave, in the area of 450 Brookline Ave. I had just made a car stop, and as I was clearing the car stop, routinely, as I get back into my vehicle, I shut my portable off on my radio. So I caught the end of the radio call. From my perception, the radio call was given out as I was getting back into my car, so I caught the end of it. And I remember the dispatcher saying a person pulled a gun on the valet driver at the Brigham Women's Hospital. Brookline Ave is pretty much directly in the hospital area, so I was immediately in the immediate vicinity of the call. So I got on my radio, I asked the dispatcher, who was Carolyn, I said, "Carolyn, can you just give me that call again? At that time I was on Fenwood Road." she repeated the call to me. I took a left off of Brookline Ave onto Fenwood Road. I came to the intersection of Fenwood Road and Vining Street, and at that point, nothing grabbed my attention. I took a left on Vining Street up to the intersection of Francis Street and Vining when the sergeant from Brigham Women's Hospital was in the middle of the intersection. His name is Sergeant Troy Askew, who I know, said to me, David, that guy just pulled a gun on me. I immediately took a left on Francis Street, another left on Binney, a left on Fenwood, where I came to the intersection of Fenwood Road and Vining Street again. In the original call, it was a radio call that the person was driving a black Dodge Colt. So as I did that circle, I never saw a black Dodge Colt. However, when I came around the second time to that intersection, I saw a silver Dodge Colt it was in the right travel lane, facing Huntington Ave with the passenger the driver's side door open. I parked to the left of that car, taking up the inbound lane, travel lane. I exited my car, and as I was coming out of my vehicle, there was white male, glasses, brown hair, and I remember he had a lanyard on his shirt, lanyard around his neck. He said, "Someone's shooting up there, they have a gun." At that time, I turned the corner, and from where I was parked and getting out of my car was directly in front of the hospital entrance to, I think it was either like 75 Fenwood Road, like one of the main hospital entrances. So I couldn't see anything around that corner. I turned the corner, and
On foot at this time?
I was on foot, yes. I saw a male, black jacket, which was open, black pants, running down the sidewalk, and as he got closer to me, I saw a firearm in his waistband. And he's yelling at me, I'm law enforcement, go up there." And at the second time he said he was law enforcement, I was within 3 feet of him, and he immediately pulled the firearm from his waist and pointed at me. At that time, I pulled my firearm out, and I gave him commands to drop the gun, and at the same time, I fired from my weapon. At that point, he still had the gun out, pointed at me, and I began to back up, trying to create space with him, because it was just the sidewalk and nothing else where I could take any cover. As I was backing up, I fell over the curb and onto my back. I remember saying to myself at that time, get the F up, saying to myself, get up. He's going to kill you. If you don't get up, he's going to kill you. I got up, got back to my feet. I saw him again, and my gun jammed. At that time, I dropped the magazine, and as I went to reach for another magazine, I looked down and I only had one, and I had no radio. So I grabbed the other magazine, put it back in, and as I was doing that, he was getting back into his car. And he took off. But what I do want to say is when I got back up and I tried to engage him again, behind him, there was just too many people. And I just said in my mind, I can't do this. I couldn't shoot. I don't think I had a good shot at that time, so I didn't want to shoot some innocent person. Because I know that hospital, I work in that hospital area, I'm there all the time, I know who comes in and comes out. So he got back into his car, went Fenwood Road out to Huntington Ave, and I immediately got in my car and began to pursue him. I went over the radio, I told the dispatcher, it was a 303. He's back in his car, I shot him, I know I shot him. Huntington Ave. We took a right onto, we went all the way out to Fenwood, Huntington Ave, where there was another car beside me now. There was 2 patrol cars. I was in the right travel lane. There was a car in the left travel lane. And for some reason, there was not another car on Huntington Ave at that time, which is, I don't know, it's beside the point, because it's 9:30 in the morning. We continue. One of the cruisers that came from my left-hand side tried to hit him, whatever he tried to do. He went into the driver's side door, the cruiser. Somehow he stopped for about 2 seconds, 3 seconds, or whatever, short amount of time, and he was able to pull off again. We pursued him. I recall, from what I remember, I was the 3rd car in that pursuit the whole entire time. Through Brookline, I was calling it out with the dispatcher. And I don't know the name of the intersection. It seemed like we went for a while, and we finally came up to an intersection. I saw numerous cars that were damaged, and I saw his car on the right-hand side, and I pulled up past it, and I saw him laying up on the corner. He was in it was in front of a shopping plaza or a side mall or whatever, but he was up on the curb with a grassy, it was all muddy, and he was laying there. And I remember some lady going up to him, and we're all yelling at her to get back. I don't remember, somebody went back and grabbed her or whatever. He laid there, and now at that time I'm joined by 4 or 5 other officers, and we're telling him, I'm just yelling at him to lay on the ground with your hands out. Get on the ground, because he's in a seated position. Actually, he was leaning to his right-hand side in a seated position. And we continue to tell him to lay on the ground, hands out, and I remember him reaching with his right hand into his jacket and someone yelling gun. And at that time, I fired my firearm again.
What happens next?
Detective Cook, who was there pretty quickly, there was a lot of officers there pretty quickly. Detective Cook grabbed me, put me in a cruiser. I remained in the cruiser until I went into an ambulance and went to St. Elizabeth's Hospital.
Are you aware of other officers firing around you?
Yes.
Do you know where they were in relationship to where you were standing?
We were positioned, from what I recall, there was 5 of us almost in a line formation. And I was on the furthest one from the right. Because there was nobody on my right-hand side.
Do you know how many rounds you fired there? Do you recall?
I don't.
If we can just back up at the Brigham, when you fired initially, do you remember how many rounds you fired up there?
No, I don't.
Okay. And then you went down on the curbing, the ramp, the wheelchair ramp there?
Yeah.
And your weapon became disabled?
Yes.
For a short period of time there?
Yeah, it jammed.
And you weren't able to shoot any rounds from down there on the ground that you recall?
From what I recall, no.
And from that point on, until you get to Brookline, as far as you recall, you weren't able to fire your weapon again, for various reasons, safety reasons?
Yes. I never fired my weapon from the point I got back into my car to Brookline.
So you really had no knowledge if your gun would actually function again after you had a jam on the ground, correct? Am I reading that correctly?
When I was driving, I was able to
Correct it.
correct
Correct
it.
the jam, yep.
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember anybody yelling out commands before people fired, other than yourself? I know you said you did.
Everybody was.
You recall everybody yelling out?
Everybody was yelling. Everybody, yeah. What they were yelling, drop the gun, whatever. I don't recall what they were yelling, but it was so loud, and there was so many, all of us just yelling commands. And one of my biggest things were people were driving in that parking lot towards us, and like police officers walking towards us from where he was positioned, and there was other police officers. So my mind was, I was focused on him, and then I was focused on the other officers as well, because I don't want, if this guy pulls out a gun, these police officers might get shot too. So my train of thought was watch these guys and him at the same time. So, and all at the same time, I'm yelling for him to.
You have a lot of concerns there, a lot of responsibilities there.
Yes.
Correct. I understand. From the minute you felt threatened that you had to fire rounds back at the Brigham or Vine Street, till the moment you began a pursuit, can you describe what's going through your mind at that time? And tremendous speeds in the pursuit? What was the speeds?
In the beginning, it was slow. It was when we were on Huntington Ave, and almost through, I don't know Brookline at all. We weren't going fast. We were only 35 miles per hour. And then I remember going through Brookline. As we hit the Brookline line, I remember a detail cop standing on the corner. I remember him specifically. He was on his radio, and then that's when I think the speeds picked up quicker. But like I said, I was a third vehicle pursuit. So at one point, I think someone, I shouldn't say I think, I don't recall, but someone said we lost them.
If you had to estimate, what do you think the speeds got at the highest point of the speed?
I have no idea.
Okay.
All right, Dave. Speaker is Sergeant Detective John Broderick. Dave, I'm going to just walk through some almost administrative questions for a minute, and then I'm going to go back and we're going to talk about 60 Fenwood Road. Just fill in some questions, okay?
Okay.
And I apologize if the lieutenant asked this question. You're currently assigned to Area B2, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How long have you been assigned there? I know you were in the drug unit for a while, but you've been back there for.
I came back there in May.
Okay.
May of 2019. I was briefly in A1 for I think it was 5 months. But prior to that, I've been there since May 2010.
Okay. So you graduated from Police Academy 13 years ago. Prior to that, you had 7 years with Tewksbury PD, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you were working the day tour Friday.
Yes.
Is that your normally scheduled tour duty?
Yes.
Okay. And what are the hours?
7:30 to 4 p.m.
Okay. Did you do any details or overtime tours prior? So did you do anything on the morning watch? Morning watch is 11:45 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. Did you do any details or overtime prior to your regular scheduled tour?
The only thing I did prior to that was
if you remember.
I didn't do a last half.
Okay.
I think I did the Brigham Cruiser detail Thursday night.
Thursday night to Friday morning.
Yeah.
Would that have been the entire tour?
That would have been 4 to 11:45.
Oh, okay. Then you did 4.
And then I had the 8-hour home time.
Okay, all right.
So I didn't. I at least I had. I know I had at least 8 hours off, but before my scheduled tour.
Okay, so you think you did the cruiser detail from the first half prior?
Correct.
So it would be the first half, the evening of the 6th, right?
Correct.
Okay. Your assignment that day was a 457, so that's a one-man car, just for your edification, right?
Yes.
And you were in a marked vehicle, right?
Correct.
Do you remember the cruiser number?
9516.
9516. You were in full uniform?
Yes.
And you were wearing a full gun belt?
Yes.
2 mags?
Yes.
What kind of holster do you have in that? Is that the newest version?
Yes, it is.
All right. We talked about what brought you to the incident. Best of your memory is a 911 call for a person with a gun having to do with somebody showing a gun or pulling a gun on an employee.
Pointing a gun at a valet driver.
Okay. And you would ask the dispatch for additional information, and they were in the process of updating that?
Oh, I asked, if I may call her Carolyn, I asked Carolyn, I says, I only got a little bit of it, so I asked her to repeat that call again. Can you give me that call again? And then she gave me everything all over on the radio again.
So is it I don't want to put words in, is it safe to say that you had as much information at that time as everybody else did?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just going back through, you come off Brookline Ave onto Fenwood.
Correct.
You take a left on Vining, back up toward Francis.
Yeah, correct, yes.
And at some point you take a left on Francis and come back down Binney around
Yes.
again. So you looped around again.
I did.
Okay. And I asked that because I've watched the video and I see a cruiser do that, and I haven't been able to identify him, but you
It's me.
explain it to it that it's you looping around. Okay. And when you pull up, you park your car on Fenwood or Vining, or right at the
It's parked
intersection?
on Fenwood.
It's on Fenwood. Okay. And the Colt is. Where is the Colt in relation to where you get exit your car?
The Colt is, if you're on Fenwood looking outbound towards Huntington Ave, the Colt would be on my right-hand side,
Okay.
and I'm parked to the left.
So you said earlier he's in the right travel lane. Is it safe to say that you stopped your car in the left travel lane?
Correct.
Okay. Do you see any other police officers at the time and when you're arriving?
No.
Do you see any other blue lights?
No.
Okay. Are you assigned a body-worn camera?
Yes.
Okay. Was it affixed to your body?
No.
Okay. Where was it at the time?
In my duty bag.
Okay. Is there a reason why it wasn't on? The best of your memory,
I didn't put it. I just didn't have it on.
okay.
I don't keep it on my body unless I get out for a call.
Okay. Let's just go through the calls for 1 second, okay? So you're assigned a Glock 22. Do you know off the top of your head the serial number?
No.
If you don't, I don't blame you. All right.
I don't.
So for the record, it's VYN 765. Your last qualification was 6/20 of 2019, so you're obviously in compliance there. Do you know if you had your department issued firearm?
I know now that I did not.
Okay. Do you have any idea around the time that the mix-up might happen?
No.
Okay. So you have no independent memory of when the last time you actually checked your firearm, like the serial number, right?
I check it all the time. So, I mean, at least in my mind, I play it back. Every time I put my firearm into a locked box, I pull it out, and I check the serial number. So, whatever happened within the last week.
Okay. And just for the lieutenant's edification, inside Area B2, Officer Godin's assigned, there's a series of lock boxes that the officers secure their firearms in prior to going into any area that there would be a suspect in the booking area. What we've discovered in the last day is that some of the keys open additional open additional boxes. So it's very likely that if the guys were in the area and there was an emergency call, they went out to get their firearms, they hit the first key, and that might be a reason why you didn't check your serial number, like how you normally do. You could have been going out to like an emergency call and officer in trouble, something like that, right? Okay, but you think it'll probably only be a period of a couple weeks?
Yes, if that.
All right. But your mags, the mags that you had on your duty belt, those are that's your regular ammunition that's issued?
Yes.
Okay. So just going back to 60 Fenwood Road, you get out of the car, so you exit. With the first time you see the suspect, let me back up a second. You mentioned that you ran into a person that said they're shooting up there.
Yeah.
Is that person separate from the suspect that engaged you, or is it the same person?
Nope, that is a separate person.
Separate person.
He had already made the corner. So as I was getting out of my car,
Yep.
he had already made the corner, so he was coming down Vining Street and take a right, or he went straight across the street.
Okay.
But he was on that left-hand side, and young kid, 25, 26 years old.
Okay.
And I just remember distinctly glasses with the lanyard and saying, someone's shooting up there, he's got a gun.
Okay. When you're arriving, have you heard any shots yet?
No.
Has there been any 911 calls relative to actual shots fired, or just the person with the gun threatening somebody?
If there was, I didn't hear anything.
Okay. So you get out of the car, you're on the sidewalk, you see the individual. Does he have a firearm in his hand yet?
No.
Okay. And can you just go back? He identifies himself as law enforcement and is directing you back up the street.
He's running towards me. And when he's running, his jacket's wide open.
Okay.
And I see a black firearm in his waist.
Okay. Is that the first time you had seen him, or had you seen him on your
That's
first?
the first time I've seen him. I saw him that time.
Okay.
And as he's getting closer to me, he's yelling, "I'm law enforcement, I'm law enforcement." And I'm focused on that firearm and looking for some kind of badge, looking for something. Because his appearance just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Okay.
And when he was approximately like 3 to 4 feet away from me, that was the second time he said, I'm law enforcement. Something's going on up there, and that's when he pulled the firearm from his waist and pointed it right at me.
Okay. When he points the firearm at you, did you make any other observations of the firearm?
No.
Okay. You didn't, but okay. So you then pull your firearm out.
Yes.
You discharge while you're on your feet.
Yes.
Okay, and the lieutenant asked you at some point in time. I know you came to the ground. Do you remember firing it off from a supine position?
No.
Okay. Is it possible that you did?
To my recollection, no.
Okay. So you get back up on your feet.
Yes.
You have a malfunction.
Yes.
You work the malfunction out, and then as he's getting back to the car, is he still armed? Does he still have the firearm in his hand?
I can't tell at that
Can't
point.
tell. But your backdrop led to a decision not to fire, concern of people behind you.
Yes.
Okay. He's back in the car, and then we went through the pursuit. Okay. Did you ever, at any point in time, had you yet to see another police officer there?
Not until I got out to Huntington Ave.
Okay. Do you remember hearing it when you're down and not firing? Do you remember hearing any additional shots?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know? But you never saw where those shots were coming from.
I in my mind, it was him.
Okay. Fair enough. So when you're on the ground, you're in a malfunction, so you know you're not firing, but you can hear additional rounds.
Yes.
Going on. And at that time, your assessment was that those rounds were coming
He's
from the
shooting at me,
suspect.
and that's why I'm saying get the
Okay.
fuck up.
Other than the suspect saying to you, "I'm law enforcement," do you remember anything else that he says that's
Besides, I'm law enforcement, get up there.
okay?
And that was it.
Okay. When you got knocked to the ground, what did he do? When you were on the ground, was he closing distance?
When I was falling, he was closing distance.
Okay.
When I got on the ground, I don't know what he did.
Okay.
Because when I got back up, he was going to his car.
Okay. Do you remember there being you in a physical struggle with him on the ground?
No.
Or you don't remember? Okay.
I don't.
And I know it happened so quickly, so when he pulls the gun on you and points the gun at you and you fire from the gun, do you remember, were you able to assess your backdrop, or did it happen so quickly that?
I just remember seeing the building. I don't remember anyone behind him, because when he was running down that sidewalk, there was nobody else coming behind him. I don't remember anyone at all behind him except for the building.
Okay. And can you tell me again, and I apologize, I know you said you gave verbal commands as he's coming down and
Yes.
telling you he's law enforcement, and you're telling him, can you just tell me what you were telling him at the time?
Drop the fucking gun.
Okay. And that's before, and you would see
That's
the
when
gun.
that's when he was pulling. That's when
as
he
was
pulled it out.
supposed to- Okay.
Yep.
All right, so just to go back, you had two mags in your gun belt.
Yes.
Do you have any questions, Lieutenant, about Fenwick?
Just the caliber of your firearm?
45. Was it
40
40?
caliber.
40.
40 calibers.
Yeah.
And do you remember at any point learning or actually visually seeing in your confrontation that the suspect may have had a shoulder holster?
No.
Do you remember hearing in a broadcast at all during the pursuit at all?
No.
Okay.
Lieutenant, if it's just for the record for you, it's he's been assigned a Glock 22 40 caliber,
Okay.
and the serial number, I think I said it, but I'll do it one more time, is V as in Victor, Y as in Yankee, N as in Nora, 765.
Okay.
And Officer Godin is in compliance with the range qualifications, last qualified 6/20 of 2019 with a score of 90.
Do we have the serial number of the one that was actually fired that day?
I don't have it off the top of my
Okay.
head, so, but we can get that for you. And you have, no, that's fine. I'm just going to do, Kenny, I'm just going to do a map as best you can.
Yes.
I have two maps here, just for the record. They're both a general Google Maps of the area of 60 Fenwood Road. One is a satellite picture, the other is a conventional map picture. They're not great, Dave.
Okay.
But to the best, if you could just, so just, this is Vining, Francis, this is Fenwood. As best you can, you just mark with an X. Well, how about with a 1, the first time you encountered the suspect, and 2, well, let me ask you this. I don't know. I know they're pretty close together. So why don't you just mark where you were, as best your memory, where you first encountered the suspect?
With an X?
Yep. Okay.
And then you want me to do my car or his car or anything like that?
So just let me just make sure I get. So this is Fenwood Road. Would your car be? Yeah. Why don't you just put put P where the police car is, and put S where the suspect car is. Okay. All right. And then that's fine. I just want to give you the chance, if that helps you with any better. Is that essentially the same map, just in it with a satellite view? Does that make it easier for you to see where you were, or is it pretty much the same?
I mean, it's pretty much the same.
Okay. Do you want to take a look at him, Kenny? Or just...
I'm good.
Well, he was, I mean, his car was in the intersection right here.
Right.
And then I parked a little bit, I was behind him, maybe 5 feet behind him on the left. So my car was a little bit
Okay, so both of your cars were facing the same direction.
Correct.
His car was maybe 5 feet ahead of you in the right travel lane.
yes.
You were 5 feet behind him in the left travel lane.
Yes.
Okay. So is it fair to say no cars could have gone by you?
No.
Right. So traffic was probably backing up behind you guys.
Yes.
Okay. I'm telling you what, just take a look at that. I know you. So this would be Brigham and Women's. This is where the interaction happens.
And this is a hill, correct?
Yeah, it's an incline.
Upward incline. Okay. If we can just back up to Brookline, one more question. Do you remember at some point somebody handcuffing the suspect?
No.
Okay. Were you aware at some point people went over and tried to administer medical attention?
I went over to him, Officer Figueroa. I mean, are you talking about?
In Brookline.
Do I remember that day? What happened?
Yeah.
I've learned subsequently
No,
that.
no, I don't wanna-
Okay,
I don't wanna
no,
know that.
I don't remember anyone handcuffing him. I remember going around to the rear side of him.
Okay. And did you remember seeing a trooper there?
Yes,
all?
he was
You did
to
recall a
my.
trooper there?
Yes, he was 1, 2 to my left or 3 to my left.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if that helps you at all.
All right. This is Route 9. This is the direction you pursued coming down from the hospitals. You end up here. This is Star Market parking lot. At your point, do you recall, does this look like the area that you were? Where
Yeah, I'd probably say right where that is. That appears to be where he was in that little black area with because it was all dirt.
Do you remember
and
wood
mulch.
chips and?
Yes, I remember
you
the
remember the
mulch.
wood chips and
Yes.
some bushes there.
Yes,
Okay, very good.
and there was a box van parked right here,
Correct. There was a
and then there
concrete
was
truck.
a
Okay,
cop.
good.
I'm not going to name who it was. Came to the right side of the box van, facing us, and then there was
Right.
another cruiser that pulled in right here.
Right. Okay. Very good.
Just for the record, the diagram you're looking at, actually, the writing on it is upside down, and you're kind of on the bottom middle portion of that intersection with the writing upside down, correct?
Correct.
Almost near where the little blue bus sign is.
Yes, because I remember this intersection.
But
here.
he's yeah, and you can look at it this way if that helps you. But you're actually looking at it from describing it. He acts,
Yeah, the other way was better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Very good.
Hey, Dave, do you mind just doing me a favor, just signing that, drawing your ID number down, so we don't.
And put the date on it too.
Yes, please.
February 12th.
Any other questions?
No, is there Is there anything that you feel is important that we should have asked you that we didn't ask you, or you'd like us to you want to talk about?
No, just like when he initially took that gun on, I thought he was going to kill me.
Okay. And that was your state of mind, obviously.
Yeah, that's my state of mind.
And then back in Brookline, you felt the same in Brookline at the time, based on the information that you knew that you were getting in collective with the other officers.
Yeah, I thought between what happened on Fenwood Road, the chase, and then his actions again in Brookline, his perception was to kill us.
Okay. Actually, I didn't ask this question. I should have. I apologize. The best of your memory, when the suspect is going back to the car at Fenwood Road, is he still armed with the firearm that you saw him?
I don't recall.
Okay.
You did ask me that though.
I did it.
Yes. I don't recall.
Okay.
Do you remember any transmissions at all that somebody actually had been shot, and that was one of the reasons why you were responding there?
No. My initial response was the pulling the firearm on the valet. That was my initial response.
And I know you said your radio fell off on Fenwood Road.
Yes.
Okay, so you could hear the pursuit, what's going on in the pursuit in your car radio, but when
I was calling the pursuit.
Right. So when you exit your car at Hammond Street, you don't have the ability to hear any other radio transmissions.
No.
So essentially, you're assessing that situation based on your own observations and verbally what you're hearing from other officers.
Yes.
Okay.
If I could just ask a quick question. Officer Godin, at the scene in Brookline on Hammond Road, Route 9, how long, and this may not be a fair question, how long were people there engaging this person saying, show us your hands, lay down, drop the gun, before somebody actually discharged?
No more than 2 minutes. I mean, we yelled.
I'm sorry, how many?
No more than 2 minutes. We yelled, for 2 minutes straight, screaming at him to just lay on the ground, put your hands out. And then when someone yelled, he's reaching for the gun, he's got a gun, it was quick. It was 2-3 minutes. And
just, I'm sure this was already asked, but I'm not really as familiar with the Brookline scene as the lieutenant is, but when I say you guys, when the police arrive in Brookline, he's already out of the car, moving away from the car, correct?
I was the first one there.
Okay, when you get there,
from what I recall, I was the first one there because I saw his car on the right-hand side, all smashed to everything, and I saw him like staggering up on that mulch area, not even staggering, almost like crawling, and that's when more officers showed up.
I don't have any more questions.
I have nothing else.
Okay, Officer Godin, thank you. We're going to end the interview at 10:52 a.m.
Boston Police Officer Michael St. Peter.
All right, good morning. Today is February 12th, 2020. The time is approximately 11:26. My name is Sergeant Detective John Broderick. My ID is 10132. I'm assigned to the Boston Police Firearm Discharge Investigation Team, and I'm here at Norfolk County District Attorney's Office in an interview room to interview Police Officer Michael St. Peter regarding an officer-involved shooting that initially occurred in the area of 60 Fenwood Road in Boston on Friday, February 7th, 2020. The incident number for that incident is 2020-1292. This interview is being digitally recorded. I'm being assisted in this interview with
Lieutenant Gerard Mattaliano, Mattaliano, with the State Police assigned to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office, and our responsibility is the use of lethal force in Brookline, Massachusetts, at Hammond and Boylston Street.
Also present for the interview is
Attorney Kenneth Anderson, Anderson, for Officer Michael St. Peter. And just before continuing further, I'd just like to put on the record that pursuant to a conversation with Mark Lee from the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office to memorialize the Officer St. Peter is aware that he has certain rights and protections under the Constitution. He is here voluntarily. He's waiving those rights, and he's going to give a voluntary statement regarding his actions.
All right, thank you. Officer St. Peter, can you just introduce yourself as far as for the recording and spell your last name and your ID number, please?
Sure, my name is Michael St. Peter, and my last name is St. Peter, and my ID number is 108891.
Okay. Mike, I'm going to ask you some basic questions, run through basically your bio. Where are you currently assigned?
K-9 unit for Boston Police.
Okay, and how long have you been assigned to the K-9 unit, approximately?
It's about 5 years.
Okay, and prior to the K-9 unit, where were you assigned?
District 3, Mattapan.
Okay. And when did you graduate from the police academy?
It was June 2009.
Okay. Did you have any prior law enforcement before the academy?
No, sir.
Okay. Were you working Friday, February 7th, 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And was that a normal tour of duty?
It was a detail.
You were doing a detail. What detail was it?
It was the Brigham Women's Cruiser detail.
Okay. And what were the hours of that detail?
They were... I didn't get it until probably about 8:45. I think the normal hours of it are 7 to 3:30.
Okay. What time did you get there?
I got there about in between 9:15, 9:20, probably a little closer to 9:20.
Okay. So you... Okay. All right, and that's obviously not your regular... Did you work any shift prior to the detail?
No,
Okay. What is your normal shift in K-9?
noon to 6.
Noon to 6. Okay. You want a day off?
Yes, sir.
So you're assigned to the K-9 unit. Did you have your dog with you on the
Yes,
on the
sir.
detail? What's your dog's name?
Duke.
Duke.
D-U-K-E.
Okay. So I want to ask you if you were the driver, the passenger, because I'm going to assume Duke wasn't driving, right?
Duke was not driving.
You were in a marked vehicle,
Yes, sir.
the cruiser number?
9534.
Okay. You in full uniform?
Full, like, regular, non-K9 uniform, a
Non-K.
detail uniform.
So
yeah.
Class A?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a gun belt on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was it a full gun belt?
I did not have all my magazines on it quite yet. I have my tactical vest for K9 that I had there, and I was in the process of
Or transition?
transitioning over
Okay.
when the incident occurred.
Okay, that's fine. So you had all your mags?
They were in the
all
vehicle.
available, right?
Yeah, they were in the vehicle. Yeah.
Okay. And the holster that you had, was it like a secondary holster, or was it your primary?
It was the primary one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so bringing your attention to you're doing the so just for the lieutenant's perspective, where were you parked? Actually, why don't you do this? Why don't you tell us in your own words? I know now that you were contacted by a security officer. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. Can you tell us basically from that point forward what happened in your own words?
Okay, so I was looking at the cruiser detail. Usually, you're assigned a radio and a pass to go throughout the building. The guy wasn't there at the bottom of Vining Street where the parking garage is. While I was looking for him, it couldn't have been more than a minute. A Brigham security vehicle came down Vining Street and was waving at me, and so I come up and he stated to me that someone just flashed a gun at him. I asked him to move his car, and he started yelling at him and showed him a gun.
Okay, just back up. So when you say you asked him to move the car, you're saying the security guard asked
Correct.
the individual with the gun
Yes,
to move the car?
correct.
Okay.
So then, while he's telling me this, at the same time on my Boston Police radio in Channel 3, you start hearing a person with a gun call being put in for the area there. I forget what they said to the exact address, but it was obviously in the Brigham hospital area. And then right after that, you see at the top of Vining and Francis Street someone waving us down to him. So my cruiser's right there. I jump in my cruiser. I start driving up there. As I approach Francis Street, now someone's pointing me back down Vining towards Fenwood. And when I look that way, there's a person holding some sort of, what appears to be a firearm in his hand, walking down Fenwood Street. On the side, there's a Coke truck right there, and he's approaching Fenwood,
So he's walking down Vining
Vining, yep.
in the direction of
In the direction of
and
Fenwood,
he, and
yep.
he has what appears to be a firearm in
Correct.
his hand.
Yep.
Okay. And you're in the. I'm just trying.
I'm in my-
you're
I'm in my
the
cruiser,
vehicle
yep,
In
yep.
the street, and this
Yep.
individual is on
On foot.
in the street or on the sidewalk?
On the sidewalk.
Okay.
I then proceed to turn the car around to get ahead of him, and I put it at the intersection of Fenwood and Vining. I lose sight of him for a second, but at this point, I instinctively, as being a canine officer, think I'm going to grab my dog and just see what I can do with him in this situation. I then, all of a sudden, see this this individual. He's pointing a gun, and he's in some sort of struggle. So I was getting my dog. I shut the door in the dog's face, and I go into the front of my the driver's side, door side to like the engine block area. And this incident's happening somewhere on the other side, on like the passenger side. I then pull out my firearm, telling this individual to drop the gun, and then there's shots fired. I then, start shooting at this individual, and I'm not quite sure how many times I shot, and the guy goes down, and I don't know how much further you want to just keep going. Yep. So the individual goes down. I can't at this point. I can't hear. My radio's gone. It's on the ground somewhere. I then, assuming that the suspect is down, he's down and he is grimacing, and then he gets back up, and I thought he was mortally wounded. He turns around and starts limping back. I thought for sure he was gonna just stumble and go down. I'm yelling at him to drop the gun.
So he still has the firearm in his hand?
Yes. He's retreating, and at this point,
Excuse me. You mean when he's retreating? You mean he's walking away
Yes.
your direction?
Yes. Yes. Fleeing. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Fleeing. Yes.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
No.
But I just don't. He at that point he still had the firearm. He hadn't surrendered. He hadn't dropped the firearm. He hadn't
Correct.
made-
Correct.
He hadn't complied with any of your verbal commands at that point.
Correct. At this point, I'm I continue to give the commands, and then it's just there's a lot of people down there. You can see in the background. You can see there's a car spinning around. There's people hitting the deck. There's I see like yellow vests and stuff, and it just wasn't a good point to shoot.
You're talking about your backdrop.
Correct. Yes, the backdrop was very chaotic. There was obviously know in the back of your mind that the Longwood area is an extremely busy area. I'm continuing to give verbal commands, but then I start realizing I'm a little bit out of cover myself, and then I go back. I start getting cover back to my cruiser, continue to give commands, and then I'm starting to think in my head I might want to retrieve my radio and possibly my dog at this point, just to see if I could do something with him. But then he jumps in a car. I didn't even know there was a car there that was readily available to him. He jumps in the car. At that point, I mean, it was. I didn't know whose car that was. I didn't know if someone bailed out of that car. I didn't know who was in the car. I didn't know what was going on with the car. And I thought for sure he was going to succumb to his injuries at some point here. And then he just drove away. And I thought at that point it wasn't safe to shoot a moving car. That's one of our rules. It seems like it's kind of beaten into us about the car. And I didn't know who else was in that car, and also again the backdrop of people all over the place in that area.
Okay.
I then retrieved my radio, gave a direction of flight for the Fenwood down to Huntington. I jumped in my car and pursued. Officer Godin got in his first, and then I followed him, and then we went down to obviously we got in the chase. I was probably like the third car in the chase, maybe third or fourth car. At some point, the chase is briefly stopped. I think by like that before it enters Brookline, I think someone tried to do something happened with another cruiser where the car was briefly stopped, and then the car managed to get through whatever was stopped up there. And then the chase continued on into Brookline. I then, at one point, someone yells out, they've lost sight of him. He might have, you can't, I don't know where he went. He might have went down a side street or something. I don't even know if they said that, but they lost sight of him. So I saw brake lights down one of the side streets. I jumped down the side street because I figured there's enough guys going this way, just to double check to make sure we didn't lose them. And then I went down the side street. I took a left. I come right back out to the Star Market Plaza. I enter the parking lot. I hear shots fired, and I get my dog out just in case. At this point, I figure we have enough people there that I can utilize my dog in case this guy attempts to flee or whatever. And I bring my dog up, and I assist. There's several people there, the state police and Boston guys, and just as they approached the body to make sure, that the suspect wasn't still, to shoot or do whatever. And then at some point, they pretty much determined he was non-viable, and I put the dog away, and that was it.
Okay. So let's go back from Fenwood Road. So you said you see the individual walking down Viding in the direction of Fenwood. He's on the sidewalk, and he has what believes to be a firearm in
Correct.
his hand, right? Do you see him doing anything? Do you hear him saying anything? Do you see him doing anything?
I don't know.
Okay. When you drove from, you parked at the Mission Garage, is that accurate at Fenwood, like right near the garage entrance?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if it's called the Mission Garage, but yeah, it's like goes underground there. Like you can come right off the Riverway, and it's the garage right there. Yeah.
And that's where you pick up your radio and stuff?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so you're waiting for your radio. So when you get alerted by the security officer and you start driving, does anybody wave you up toward up Francis Street? Or is it,
Yeah.
Okay, who does that?
I don't know who it is.
Okay.
It was too far away. It was,
But you see people, and then you said somebody waves you down. Do you remember who that is? Is that security officers? Is that civilians? Do you remember?
you talking about, like, I got the security guard who flagged me down, and then I get,
tells you, right?
yeah, and then I get waved up here by someone. I don't know who it is.
Okay.
You just instinctively, think,
Yep.
someone needs help, and you go up that way, and then back down the other way. I'm not sure either. I have no idea who it was.
But
No.
okay, so then you make a U-turn,
Yeah.
and you come back down. The Coke truck is in the street.
Yeah.
Last time you see the guy, the suspect, can you describe? Do you remember what the suspect was wearing?
It was dark clothing, I think.
Okay. Do you remember if he was a white male, black male?
White.
White male. Okay. So you see him. Is it fair to say at some point in time he's behind the Coke machine when he's to the right of the Coke truck and you're to the left of the Coke truck?
Yeah, he's at the Coke truck, sidewalk, and building.
Okay.
He's somewhere in between there,
Okay.
and I'm on the other opposite side
When
of
you
him.
pull past the Coke truck and get out of the car, that's when you see him back into your view?
I see him, there's a second there where I grab the dog, and then once I'm grabbing the dog, then I see him come back into view.
Do you see anybody else in front of him, around him?
I see there's someone in some sort of struggle with him. I'm not sure who or what it is.
Okay. Do you know now who it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Did you know at the time it was a police officer?
I didn't. I wasn't sure. No.
Okay. Just for the record, I think we're talking the person in the altercation, physical altercation, is Police Officer Godin. Is that you fair? You comfortable with that now?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have you heard shots fired yet?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I hear them. I mean, it's from the sequence to getting to the dog, and then to go into my hood. There was shots fired.
Okay. So you had heard shots fired before you took your firearm out.
Yeah.
Well, right around that time.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's not right around that time. Yeah.
Okay. So when you take your firearm out, before you fire, what is it that you're seeing?
I'm seeing a guy pointing a gun at someone.
Okay.
And
And he's pointing the firearm at the person he was having the altercation with?
yes.
Where is that person physically? Is he on the ground? Is he on his feet?
Look, he's not at the same level as him. So it's like he's either on the ground or on his knees or something. He's lower than him. Yeah.
Okay, and that individual is the suspect is pointing what you believe to be a firearm at that individual.
Correct.
And you're giving verbal commands.
Yes.
To drop the gun.
Yes.
What? Anything else?
No.
Okay, and at that time, at some point in time, shortly thereafter, you discharge your weapon.
Correct.
And why is it that you discharge your weapon?
Because I believe that the person, whoever he was in the struggle with, and myself are in great danger. That someone was gonna. There was nothing else to do. Someone was gonna die.
Okay, and at that time you had already heard shots.
Correct.
Okay, was it your? Did you draw an opinion as to where those shots were coming from? Did you have a frame of mind?
It was coming from right across. It was on the other side of my car. I don't know.
But from the direction of the suspect?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
but at the time during the altercation, you didn't even know that was a police officer?
Correct.
Okay. So that's when you fired. Do you remember how many times you fired?
I'm not sure. I mean, do you want me to guess? No. Okay. Yeah.
If you don't know, you don't know.
Okay.
Okay. So you discharge, and then at that point in time, the suspect goes down?
Yes.
Okay. Does the person who's having the altercation, is that person able to get to his feet? Do you notice?
I feel like he's just out of whatever little view I saw of him, he was no longer in view.
Okay, so if you were looking straight ahead and it was 12 o'clock on a clock, would that individual be to the right, like at 3 o'clock or at 6 o'clock? To the best of your memory.
During the altercation, or after the fact?
Well, did you when you fired at the suspect, did you see the person in the altercation come to the left, or you didn't see him cross path of you, right?
No, I didn't.
So would it be fair to say that he moved somewhere to your right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. All right. And then the suspect, you said at some point in time, is down?
Yes.
And you say he's grimacing?
Yes.
Do you believe he was shot at that time?
Yes.
Okay. Did he get back to his feet?
Yeah, yes.
And he makes his way to a car?
Correct.
Do you remember what kind of car it was, or color at least?
I mean, now I do, because it was in the pursuit silver, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when he's making his way back to the car, you're making observations and he still has a firearm in his hand? What you believe to be a firearm
Yes.
in his hand? Okay. Then he gets into the car. It pulls away. You said you see Officer Godin go by him. At the time, did you know it was Godin, or do you know now that it was Godin?
I mean, I know he was in. No, I didn't. I know his. I heard his voice on the radio. He's a distinct voice. I knew he was in the area, but I didn't know that was him until he drove by me in the car. Yeah.
Okay. So the first time that you know that it's Godin, that it's a police officer potentially involved in this, is when he drives by in the car?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see him go to his car? If you
I
didn't,
can't
you did.
remember,
Okay.
yeah.
So you falling behind him.
Yeah.
And then there's the trip to Brooklyn.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
at some point in time, you say there's somebody makes a move to try to block the car and
Yes.
pit it over. Well,
Yep.
not pit it, because that's not one of our procedures, but something similar to that.
Correct. Yeah.
And then you're in Brookline.
Correct.
Back there at Francis Street, when you get in your cruiser, in your mind at that time, what do you think has actually transpired? Do you think a suspect is fired at one of your offices, or at least at another individual?
Yes.
So you get in your cruiser into the pursuit with that in mind.
Correct.
Okay. And then were you actually in the pursuit down Route 9, down Huntington onto Route 9?
Yes, I was probably, if I had to guess, the third or fourth car in the pursuit.
And can you describe the operator's behavior during that pursuit?
I can't really say, because I didn't have like a visual on him, because I was a couple cars back. I was a few cars back, but we were going pretty. It was dangerous.
It was high speed?
Yes, it was dangerous. It was early in the morning, broad daylight.
Not a traffic.
Yes.
And at some point it ends.
Yes.
Okay, why don't you describe the series of events, how that came about? I know you already have gone over it at least once, but...
Okay, yep. So when we were in pursuit, I said someone yells over the radio, they lost sight of him. I just think we're all kind of going in the same direction. I don't want this guy to, he might have taken a turn, so I figure I'll take a shot and take a turn and make sure he didn't take a right. And but then I clear that quickly and I come back to the Star Market area, and then as I pull into that Star Market parking lot, because I can see the barrage of cars over there, I hear shots fired. So, yeah.
Now when you pull in, are those shots over by the time you exit your cruiser?
Yes. Yeah.
So you did not see any of the shooting?
No.
Okay. What did you observe after that?
I went and grabbed my dog, and when I got out, I was kind of downrange of all these people, so they yelled at me to get out of the way, and so I go around, and I see several officers and state troopers and Boston, and possibly Brookline. They slowly walking up. They still have their guns drawn, and because we're not sure what was going on with them. And I brought my dog up along with them just in case. And eventually they get close enough where they were able to see that he was mortally injured. And and then I put the dog back at that point.
Did you see a weapon at that time?
I didn't know.
Did you see anybody offering medical attention to him at all, beginning to?
I'm not sure. I don't remember. Yeah.
Did you observe anybody going up and cuffing at any point?
I don't know.
Okay. And when you did not fire your weapon, correct?
No.
Did you hear any commands when you pulled in the parking lot?
No.
As the
No, I had
gunfire was
a
on?
relentlessly barking dog. I couldn't hear anything. So.
Okay, I'm going to show you a picture of the lot there and just describe where you are. I have an idea of exactly where you are, but so this is Route 9. Coming from the hospital, this is Route 9. You'll be coming down here.
Okay.
This is the Star Market parking lot. This is where you walked over. He was the victim, the suspect was here, and that's where the shooting occurred. They were all lined, these bushes and lined up here. So there was a box truck right here, and you. Knowing that, where were you in this area?
I'd say I was right. I pulled up right over here, and then.
Did you move at one point?
Yes, and I moved it over to here.
Okay.
Because I think that was. I remember there was some sort of building over there, so that makes more sense.
And then you moved over a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that because they told you to move a little bit,
Yeah.
or you just knew that
They told me to. Yeah. Someone yelled at me to get out of the way. So.
And that's after the shoot again. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you noticed from that point on that you need to add?
No.
So once again, you didn't hear the commands because you were pulling in your dog's barking, but you did hear the gunfire, and by the time you exited your vehicle, the gunfire was all over.
Correct. Yeah.
And when you walked up, the suspect was already incapacitated.
Correct.
Okay. Very good.
Mike, I'm going to show you a map of Fenwood Road.
Okay.
And I just want you to, I know it's a Google map. It's not, we're not flying the Alps.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to show up better or not, the red pen.
You can mark, so just to give you some, this is, so here's Francis Street.
Yep.
In theory, you would have been
garage.
back here.
Yep.
This is the intersection of Fenwood and Vining. Can you just mark with the red X or whatever that pen is, basically the best of your memory of where you would place your cruiser? And I know it's not exact. I'm just trying to get an idea.
I would say it was somewhere right here.
Okay. And and when you first encountered the individual, I'm pointing just for my own. He's coming this way on this side of
Yes.
Right. And then so he's walking on the coming down from Francis Street. He's on the right-hand side toward Fenwood Road on Vining.
Correct.
On the diagram, he's walking from the top towards the middle.
He's walking right here. He's walking down this area. Yeah.
And when you see the altercation, I know that it's not on here. There's a Coca-Cola truck.
Yeah.
Look in your mind at the Coca-Cola truck, the front of the car. Where is the altercation? Is it taking place in front of the Coca-Cola truck, off to the left of the Coca-Cola truck a little bit, or best of your memory?
I think it's somewhere because my car's here, and can I mark it right here? Is
Sure.
it
Yep.
like the Coke truck? I believe is like right here. So it's like somewhere in between, like right here.
Okay. All right. Very good. One other thing, I want to follow up on something the lieutenant asked you. He asked you essentially, you weren't, what in your mind, you had just thought somebody had just shot somebody and the car was fleeing. And at the time he's fleeing, is it safe to say you still believe he's armed because you said earlier that when he was getting to the car, he still had, right? So now you have in your mind, you have a fleeing armed gunman who just potentially just shot somebody.
Correct.
Correct. I'm not putting words. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Just touching base for administratives. Do you know your department issued firearm, the serial number? If you don't, you don't.
I think it's KYY 111.
If I told you it was VYP 111.
Yes, sorry. Yeah,
it's your personal firearm.
Yeah. It's the 3 1s at the end. I remember. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So last qualification was about 12/13/2019.
Yes.
That sound right? Okay. Who took your firearm that day? Do you remember?
I think I know this because a couple guys I was talking to. I think it was Cook took it. I think, along with there was another boss. There was a boss there too. I don't recall.
Sergeant Detective Pratt, maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
And you think and you turned over to him your firearm, any mags or anything like that? You remember?
Just the gun belt. My mags was still in my car on my external vest carrier.
Okay. Lieutenant, do you have any more questions? Do you have anything that you think we should have asked you? You think it's important that you want to tell us about?
No, I think you covered everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kenny?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. That being said, we're going to end the interview at 11:52. St. Peter, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Boston Police Officer Corey Thomas.
February 12th, it's 2:06 p.m. My name is Romero Antoine. I'm a sergeant with the Mass State Police. And spelling of my name is Romere. Last name Antoine. And I have with me the following people.
My name is Mark, M-A-R-C, Sullivan, S-U-L-L-I-V-A-N. I'm a sergeant detective assigned to the Boston Police Firearm Discharge Investigation Team.
Attorney Kenneth Anderson, A-N-D-E-R-S-O-N, for Officer Thomas. And before having Officer Thomas introduce himself, I'm just going to put on the tape that Officer Thomas is here voluntarily pursuant to a discussion with Mark Lee in the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. Officer Thomas acknowledges that he has certain rights and protections under the Constitution, and he's waiving them and going to give a voluntary statement about his actions on February 7th of 2020.
I'm Officer Corey Thomas, Thomas.
How do you spell Corey?
Corey.
Corey, what's your ID number?
My ID number is 153159.
And Corey, who you employed with? Who do you work for?
I'm employed with the Boston Police Department
As a police officer?
as a police officer. Yes.
How long you been on Boston Police?
I've been a police officer for about a little over a year and a half, I believe.
But that's including academy time.
Academy time, correct.
You graduated from the academy last June of 2019?
Correct. So about 7-8 months.
And just run through us, since you graduated from the academy, how many districts have you worked at? Just name the districts that you worked at.
There was 2 districts, District 14, which would be Brighton, and District 2, which would be Roxbury.
Which is where you're currently employed.
Correct.
And what shift do you work?
I'm currently on the day shift.
Day shift. We're going to bring you back, recall your memory to last Friday, February 7th. So can you just run through us, basically when you reported to work, after roll call, what you did?
After roll call, I ended up grabbing I can't think of the form right now. The vehicle inspection form. Filled that out. Grabbed my officer go bag. Put that in the trunk. Got in the cruiser with my partner, and we started patrolling the Dudley Triangle since we were the walking beats.
And what call sign is that? Bravo what?
We were the Bravo 650 and 651.
Days.
Days, correct.
And that's a walk-in beat for the Dudley Triangle area?
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead, Corey.
We were doing a Code 19 in the area.
Could you explain what a Code 19 is?
Sorry, yeah. Code 19. It was just a walk and talk in the area. Just people like loitering, getting to know the customers and just the general people in the area. After that, we noticed there were a couple officers on another street. Looked like they were there for a while, so we drove down just to check in on them, make sure they were okay. Everything was fine, and then I'm in the passenger seat. I looked over at the CAD, the computer, and I noticed there was a person with a gun call. So I clicked on it, I notified my partner, and at that point in time, we started making our way towards 40 Fenwood, and we were going just normal, making our way down, no lights, no sirens. But then over the radio, that's when we heard a confirmed person with a gun, shots fired. My partner hit the lights and the sirens. I was working the computer just to get more information, see if there was any more remarks. I'm listening to the updates over the radio, saying I know he made it down Huntington Ave, and that's when we were on Tremont. We made that left onto Huntington, and I seen the vehicle. I was like, that's a vehicle right there, the silver one. It's moving. It started making its way down towards Brookline. We went onto the bridge. We hit Route 9. We continue making our way behind multiple cruisers. When we get once we're still going down Route 9, we did hear that someone lost the vehicle. We didn't know where he was. As we pulled up to the intersection of Hammond, that's when we seen, from my viewpoint, I seen a white car to the right of us. Looked like it was just in an accident. And then I look forward. I see the suspect's car was already damaged as if it was in that accident as well. And that's when we got out of the car. I looked forward again, and I seen another officer. It looked like he was doing something with the suspect. I took off towards him, but going to the right in order to cut the suspect off. 'Cause I'm thinking he's doing an all-out sprint. We get to the island. I see him. He's on the ground. To his left, because he's facing all the other officers. I have my gun drawn. I'm giving him verbal commands. Let me see your hands. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. I'm hearing other officers give out multiple commands for him to get on the ground, show us your hands. And at that time, the suspect wasn't moving his hands in a surrendering manner, as in just showing us his hands, and wasn't complying. He kept wrestling his arms and arms and hands as they were close to his body. Again, I'm from the side. I can't see his hands. I can only see him moving his arms erratically. And then again, at that point, I have my gun already drawn. I heard one round go off, and I instantly thought, all right, he's firing at officers, and I discharged my firearm. Sorry.
Okay, take your time.
I discharged my firearm, at least 3 to 5 rounds, and at that point, I was able to holster my weapon. I ran around to a box truck that was right there. I grabbed the guy that was inside, grabbed him out, and told him to get out of the area right now. He started walking, well, not walking, jogging away from the scene. I go back, and the suspect was being handcuffed. Someone was checking to see if there was a pulse, giving him immediate care, and then I looked to find my partner to make sure he was all right. I told him I discharged. He said he discharged as well. And after that, I started breaking down. Yeah.
Who was your partner for that morning? You remember his name?
That was Officer Fernandes, Leroy Fernandes.
And were you guys in an SUV?
Correct. It was the department SUV.
Okay. Just bringing you back to the area of Huntington Ave. You said you guys were driving, and you said that's the vehicle right there. Did you get any other information describing what kind of vehicle that you guys was looking for?
Correct. It was told over the radio that it was a silver. I think she said it was like a silver Cobalt. I immediately seen on Huntington. I seen the car. It wasn't driving at a normal rate of speed. It took off.
And that's what brought your attention to the vehicle.
Correct, because it wasn't normal. It wasn't normal driving. Like someone was trying to just like get out of the way. It took off.
Because that time of day, Huntington Ave is pretty congested.
Yeah, for the most part, I would say it's congested. And I know it was like a rainy day out, so you're not really driving erratically like that in the rain, especially with the trolley tracks.
Yeah.
A couple of things, bring it back to roll call. Are you in full uniform or plain clothes when you're walking beat that day?
I'm wearing full uniform.
And your partner's in full uniform as well?
Yes, sir.
Are you in a marked cruiser or unmarked cruiser?
We're in a marked cruiser.
Okay. So roll call on a day tour, correct me if I'm wrong, is 7:30 to 4 p.m.?
Correct.
Okay. So at some point you hear a 911 call for a person with a gun, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So you start making your way towards the Brigham Women's Hospital at that point? At some point you see a vehicle that draws your attention, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. While you're behind the vehicle and in pursuit, are you learning any other information during that pursuit? Do you hear any other broadcasts about anything that you're learning more information about what happened at the Brigham?
Yes, sir. So as we're in the pursuit, we're getting updates. There was a confirmed shots fired. 303 requests.
What's a 303? State police. What's a 303?
So a 303 is confirmed shots fired. You need a police involved shots fired. You need a supervisor, EMS, and backup.
And that's the code for officer involved shooting?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So sorry, can you?
Did you learn if anybody shot at that location during your pursuit?
On Huntington
the Brigham.
Ave. So at that, that's when we heard via the radio that there was a shooting at the initial incident. The initial location.
A shots fired or a person shot?
Shots fired.
Okay.
That's what got us. Well, we were already heading that way because, like I mentioned before, I'd seen the person with the gun call in the CAD.
Right.
Then we got the updates, and we're making our way there, and then they said, all right, he's on Huntington Ave. That's when we hit Huntington Ave pretty much at the same time, and I noticed the vehicle.
Okay. Now you're in pursuit with other police vehicles on Huntington Avenue?
Correct.
Where would you be positioned for police vehicles? Are you the first car in the pursuit, second car? Where do you think you were?
We were not the first car. We're definitely towards the end. I can't say for sure. I know there were multiple cars in front of us.
Do you see anything happen during the pursuit before you get to Brookline? Are there any attempts made to stop the vehicle before it hits Brookline?
So on Huntington, it did look like the vehicle may have stopped because there was a jumble, I don't know what to call it, just a group of cruisers that were there, and then you just you see the suspect's car take off.
Okay, so you're back in pursuit now.
Correct.
You're getting into Brookline. Do you have any more information about a person being shot before you exit your vehicle? If you don't know,
I can't recall.
Okay. You exit your vehicle. You run into the parking lot towards Star Market, CVS. If you don't know the area, you run to the right. Correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said you describe as being to the left of the suspect, correct?
Yes, sir.
You just describe his hand positioning. You can't see his hands. Is it towards his body? Is it down? Do you see where his arms are?
I can see his arms, but I cannot see his hands. His hands were like close to his chest or chest area. Again, he was moving them erratically. It wasn't as if he was surrendering. He wasn't putting his hands out, showing us his palm, like basically giving up. He had them close to him.
So the suspect's not complying with any verbal commands at that point, correct?
Correct.
Do you hear any verbal commands as put the gun down? Do you think anything like that as a verbal command?
I don't know.
Okay. At the time you fire, why do you fire?
I fired because I heard one gunshot, and I presumed he was shooting at the other officers, and that caused me to start shooting as well. Because I gotta protect the other fellow officers as well.
So you felt the suspect was shooting at your officers at that point, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How can you describe the suspect's positioning at that point? Is he up on his feet? Is he on his knees? Where is he at that point?
At that point, he's on the ground, like in a half lying, half kneeling type of position. He wasn't standing or fully sitting. He was on the ground.
Okay. After you're done discharging, why do you stop discharging?
I stopped discharging because, from my point of view, he was no longer moving. The threat was stopped.
Okay. At some point, do you holster back up your weapon?
Yes, sir.
Does the supervisor respond to the scene and take your weapon on scene?
Yes, sir.
Do you know who the supervisor was?
Antoine. I don't remember his name, sir.
And I think you stated before you saw officers giving aid to the suspect.
Yes, sir.
I have nothing to it.
What type of weapon do you carry?
Glock, sir.
Glock. What is it? A 40 caliber?
Yes, sir.
How many in the clip?
Just another one. 15 in the magazine and then 1 in the chamber.
Okay. And after you discharge your weapon, you never put another clip in, right?
No, sir. I do not do a reload.
Okay. And you just quickly reholster your firearm.
Yes, sir.
Okay. In front of you is a piece of paper. It's like a Google map of the area. You recognize the area what we're referring to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you just draw out when you first where you ended up and then where you saw the suspect? Just traced it for us.
I have it written, and I don't know, whatever you I don't know if it's going to show up better. That's my only
that's fine.
suggestion.
We're coming down Boylston this way.
Yep.
From the top right corner going down towards the bottom left corner in that direction.
Going westbound on Route 9.
Excuse me.
Going through the intersection of Hammond Street.
We go through.
Yeah.
The vehicle stopped.
Did you observe anything around here when you guys went through at all at the intersection?
At the intersection, there was a white car off to my right, closer to Hammond Street, and there were multiple cars to the left. It looked like the car to my right was in an accident. To the left, it looked like there was other cars, but I'm unsure if they were hit as well. But I know the car to my right was definitely in an accident.
How much damage would you say? Extensive
at that
damage?
point, I would say like that one of the whole sides was pushed in. So yes, extensive damage. As we go through Hammond Street, we stop our vehicle, and I noticed the suspect's vehicle was a little further ahead, which did have airbags deployed and more damage to it as well. I get out of the car and I start running. Running up, I see another officer involved with the suspect. So I run, and I end up to the right in this little island area. I don't know what else to call it. The suspect is in the middle for the most part. He's on the ground. I'm to his left as I'm looking at him, and I see there are multiple officers in front of him as well, down in front. Where I'm at no point in time are we in each other's line of fire. We're giving verbal commands. I'm giving verbal commands, and again, I heard one round go off. I thought the suspect was shooting at my fellow officers. I discharged my weapon. I holstered up. I went over to a box truck, which was pretty much behind the suspect. I come around. I grab the driver that was in the seat. I get him out. He takes off further into the parking lot. I come back. The suspect is being attended to. He's in handcuffs, getting medical aid, and then that's when I went to go find my partner, make sure he was okay.
And when you were standing right there, did you have any cover or any barriers in front of you, or was it wide open?
I had a small tree for the most part. It wasn't much cover, but it was better than nothing.
Aside from the guy in the truck, were there anyone else next to you in this general area? Any other officers? Do you recall?
I don't recall. I know I can see out of my left peripheral where more officers were. That's where I saw officers. I had a clear backdrop. There was no people in my line of sight.
After the scene is somewhat secured and officers approach the suspect, do you approach the suspect as well?
I don't believe I do. I believe I may have taken a couple steps toward, but I don't go to the suspect, or there was already enough people there.
Do you ever see them recover any type of weapon from him?
I did not.
Okay.
And after a supervisor took your firearm, did you go to the hospital after?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have nothing further.
I don't either.
I don't have any questions.
The time is now 2:29 p.m. Can you just sign and date that for us, Corey, in the white section there? And at this time, we're going to conclude the interview.
Boston Police Officer Joseph McMenamy.
State Police is currently assigned to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office in the Homicide Unit. We are here at the Norfolk DA's office in one of the interview rooms, and we are here regarding the incident that occurred on February 7th, 2020 in the town of Brookline on Route 9, Boylston Street, roughly in the area of 1234 Boylston. There was an officer involved, fatal shooting, and I'm joined here with other individuals, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Attorney Kenneth Anderson, last name is spelled Anderson. And just before moving on, I just want to memorialize in the tape that Officer McMenamy acknowledges he has certain rights and protections under the Constitution. He's waiving those rights. He's here voluntarily to give a statement, and I just want to say this is all pursuant to a conversation with ADA Mark Lee of the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office.
Thank you. I should also note before the other introduction that the time is 1:31 p.m.
Officer McMenamy, last name McMenamy.
Sergeant Detective Richard Lewis, LAWIS, Boston Police Homicide Unit.
Thank you, gentlemen. Officer McMenamy, what is your normal assignment? Where you normally report to, or your for duty?
I'm Squad 1 at Area B2 in Roxbury, day shift.
And was that where you were working the day on February 7th?
It was.
And what was your assignment that day?
On a daily basis, I'm the Bravo 101
That's your assignment every day?
every day.
Do you have a partner?
Yes.
Were you with a partner that day?
I was with him that day, but not at that moment. We had a previous call, and he went back to write a report, and I went to go get some shakes.
And who was your normally assigned partner that day?
Robert Lemire, Officer Robert Lemire.
And are you in full uniform?
Yes, I was.
And you have all your assigned equipment on?
Yes, I did.
Did you have a body-worn camera?
Yes, I did.
And so if you could just walk me through on that morning, what draws your attention to it? Is there something that draws your attention towards a call at Brigham and Women's, or what draws your attention that morning?
That morning, after I dropped my partner off to write a report, I went over onto the D4 side on Huntington Ave, Pliable, got just a shake, and that's when I was leaving, a call came in. It's a person that flashed a gun, which is a very common call in that area, in our district. Figured it was just a road rage incident. And it wasn't dispatched to me, so I continued to head back to my station down Huntington to retrieve my partner. And then I heard Officer Godin call off, saying it was confirmed that a gun was flashed. I believe he was speaking to valet or security at that point. And then while I was driving further down Huntington, I heard Officer Godin call off saying, "Shots fired, shots fired." So that's when I went blue lights, heading towards Brigham. And I don't know how much time passed after that, but he said 303, which is an officer-involved shooting. And I kept driving down Huntington until cars from both sides of coming off Huntington pulled in front of me onto Huntington. And that's when
You kind of converged here at the same time?
Yes. At the time, I didn't know we were in a chase. At that point, I didn't know the Colt was in front of us. I thought we were still heading to the scene. I wasn't really figuring out where we were at that point. But yes, that's when. Do you want me to continue the whole story?
Just one clarifying question, because I don't know. Would Brigham Women's Hospital normally be in your patrol area in the sense of covered by B2?
Covered by B2, yes.
And so you know Officer Godin?
Godin, yes.
Godin, sorry. And so you regularly hear him on the radio?
Regularly hear him on the radio.
Normally hear regular radio traffic from him every day?
Yes, I don't know if he's in my squad, but at least 2 days a week I hear him every day.
Okay. And what was your sense when you heard that call that day?
His first call out that a confirmed gun, not much panic right then, but when shots fired, you get used to the guys you work with, their voice. I could tell that his tone was off and it was serious at that point.
Okay, so continue. You're at Huntington. You kind of merge into, at the time you don't believe it's a pursuit, but I guess how quickly did you realize, and then...
I didn't really put two and two together where I was, but it must have been Brigham Circle where they both pulled in from Tremont in front of me. And what made me think that something was off, because I thought we were heading to the scene, is we were driving like 30 to 40 miles an hour in a situation like this. I knew we would be driving a lot faster if we're heading to the scene, so that's when I kind of pulled to the right. I believe there was 2 cars behind the Dodge Colt, then 1 car behind them, and then myself. So I veered to the right and looked between all the motor vehicles, the department vehicles, and that's when I saw the Colt right in front of them. So that's when I knew it was pursuit.
You believe you're the 4th car?
I believe so, yes. So 2, 1, and 1.
Is there anything you're hearing on the radio at that time, or is there any communication that you recognize other than the first transmissions prior to you getting involved in the failure to stop?
No, I can't say for sure, but I don't remember hearing anything after the Godin. It was just we're all following them, and I don't remember much talk on the radio at that point.
So just run us through, the next things that occur and where you end up.
Driving down, so we're all following this car in a very, very busy area, that part of Huntington between Brigham Circle and Brookline. And to me, we're following this car that we just believed was involved in a shooting. It seemed weird to me that we're just following him, just waiting for him to make the move. So I went into the left lane into oncoming traffic and just to look around, see if I could get around, and there was no traffic coming at me. For some reason, it was just totally clear on Huntington, which is very unusual. So I drive up, and I'm behind, but close. I can see that I'm pretty much parallel to the two main cars, and I see the driver of the Colt, and I drove further up, and there was no oncoming traffic, no cars, no people. It was clear, and I ran to him. I tried to pit maneuver him on the driver's side of his car, bringing his car and mine to a complete stop. I got out of my vehicle. I pulled out my firearm. I believe I pulled out my firearm, and I looked at him, and he was looking at me, the suspect. And then I had my car in park. He gassed it and was able to move my car, jam it out of it. And then the pursuit started again. It was Officer Freddie Coriano behind the suspect, and then me right behind Freddie.
So now you're the second car.
Second car going into Brookline.
Continue.
Driving, we're in Brookline now. I don't know exactly where the lines are and aren't, but I believe it's right when you go under the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
We're on Route 9 now. Freddie's behind him, and the Colt is it's gunning it, just getting away from us. Freddie's car I was behind, we weren't going nearly as fast as him. So I don't know how many miles we went. It's kind of a windy road. Some of it goes uphill and kind of winds down. And the last time I saw him, we were going up a hill. I saw him at the top of the hill. By the time we got over top of the hill, he was just out of sight. And I knew that there were some rights and there was a right and a left you could take prior to where the final incident happened. I went over there saying we no longer have him in sights, and I believe I said that he could have pulled off prior to where we are right now. And then maybe 30 seconds later, we just kept going straight. That's when I saw a pretty serious car accident at that intersection, where the final situation happened.
So now that you've stated that there was a car crash, are you familiar with the area? So for purposes of the audio recording, I'm showing you a Google map of Route 9 and Hammond Street.
Mm-hmm.
Route 9 in this area is a two-lane divided highway running east and westbound. Westbound's obviously runs towards Newton in the 128 area, and Route 9 eastbound runs back into the city of Boston.
Okay.
Does this look familiar to you as to where that crash may have occurred?
Yes, it does.
And if you could, there's a red pen there. If you feel comfortable with doing that, could you just circle where you believe that crash may have occurred?
This is where the crash occurred.
Okay. And so, and you're circling the intersection of Route 9 westbound at Hammond Street.
Yes.
So you maneuver around those vehicles, and what you observe next?
I observed the Dodge, I don't know if it's a Dodge Colt, but it's a Colt right here on the other side of the intersection, westbound.
So what do you do next?
I pulled I was still following Freddie at this point, and Freddie, he kept going straight. I knew that this was the Colt that we were following, and I parked right next to it, behind it, halfway behind it, to the driver's side.
And if you want, could you just make a notation here that this is your cruiser, just so I can distinguish between the two circles?
So this is my cruiser.
Okay. And what do you observe, if anything, at that time when you pull up next to the suspect's vehicle?
As soon as I got out of the vehicle, I pulled out my firearm and noticed nobody was inside the vehicle. And I looked further ahead, and I saw a white male stumbling around, running towards the shopping mall where the exit is to go, the entrance is to go into this plaza off of Boylston.
And do you take a direct route from your cruiser to where this white male is that you see?
I ran directly towards him, yes.
Where do you end up once you get over to that area, if you can indicate that by an X?
Once I got to the entrance off of Boylston to the shopping plaza, I still had my eyes on the suspect, and I ordered a woman, a civilian, was running or walking up to him to help him out because she thought he was just a victim of the car accident. And so I had my gun towards the ground, still drawn, but down towards the floor, and I ordered the woman to get away. And she did immediately.
If you could you just put a line where you saw that woman and kind of where she retreated, where you saw her when you told her to leave, and where she retreated back to?
I believe she made physical contact with the individual, maybe whether it was just a hand on the shoulder. It's tough with this picture because there's leaves on the trees, but I would say they were right here in this intersection on the not intersection, but on the mulch area of I don't know what you would call an island like this.
And if you could could you put a circle around it that indicates this is where you saw the suspect, and then you said that this female civilian, which way did she retreat out, if you could draw a line?
She retreated back to where, right to this, there was a car right here, where I later saw an officer talking to her while she was sitting inside of her car. It was the same woman.
So what happens next?
After she ran away, I pointed my firearm at the suspect, ordering him to get on the ground, show me your hands, get on the ground, show me your hands, get on the ground. Several times as I'm still running or walking at fast pace towards him. He's kind of crouching down, but he's standing but crouching down looking at me, and I'm still telling him to get on the ground, and he's just not, kind of fumbling around. And that's when I got real close to him, and I walked towards him, and I put my left leg up and kicked him, not kicked him, but like with the flat of my foot, like it wasn't a soccer kick. I put my foot up like 90-degree angle and kicked him down to the ground with my left leg.
And so at that time, he's in a crouch position.
He fell on prior to?
Yes.
He's leaning over, but he's standing, not a total crouch position, but he was leaning. It was an angle to his back. Yes.
And at that time, do you see anyone around you, other officers there yet?
No.
So after you push him down with your foot, what happens next?
I believe he stood back up. It's tough for me to say whether he stood back up or he was on one knee, but he stood back up. And at that point, a state police officer was to my right, and we're both giving him orders, telling us to show us his hands, I was saying, show me your hands, get on the ground, lay down on the ground, show us your hands. And that is when he, I believe, with his left hand, started grabbing at his jacket, which was unzipped at the time, grabbing at his jacket, which revealed the backside and the handle of a pistol from where I was looking. But it was a pistol that looked like it was holstered. I want to say it was holstered, and it almost looked like an old detective's holster, like where it's up on your chest. And he pulled it open. Said, I don't recall what I said at that point, but then with his, from what I remember, I don't know if it was right hand or left hand, but he reached with his other hand. That one hand, his left hand grabbed the jacket, and his right hand went to a reach for the handgun, and that's when I fired.
Do you remember how many rounds you fired?
I want to say between 4 and 10. I don't recall exactly. I remember while my gun was still out, and we were. I remember the weight of my gun was way off, and I looked to see if it was to lock back. It wasn't to lock back, but the weight was. I could feel the weight.
And just so for the audio, what you recall, and you were showing us with your own jacket, is that the suspect was using his left hand to open up his jacket, and then possibly his right hand in to go retrieve the firearm?
That is what I believe it was. Whether it was opposite.
If there was a variation, it would have just been the opposite hands.
Yes, it would have been right to jacket, left to handgun.
Okay. Thank you. And so after you fire, can you explain what happened next?
After I fire, the state police officer, he was an older man. He kind of took control and was giving us the orders. And he told me to, because the gentleman, the suspect was still on the ground, and his hands were still moving. They were still moving to his hands. People were saying his hands are still moving. Very slowly, though. And the officer said he was going to, he told me to grab his hands. He was covered in blood. I said I didn't have any gloves. So I continued to point my firearm at the suspect at a safe distance, because the state police said, I have gloves, I'll go in. The state police officer went in and grabbed his left hand as Officer Figueroa, the Boston Police Department, grabbed his right hand, and they brought him behind his back. And when that happened, the state police officer reached and pulled out the firearm.
Okay.
Just a couple of real quick ones, John. How long have you been a Boston police officer for?
June of 2017.
Okay. Any prior law experience, law enforcement
No.
experience? Okay. When you discharged your firearm, did you notice any other Boston officers around you?
I only noticed the state police officer to my right. Every other Boston police officer was to his right, so I did not see them.
Okay. When you fired, what'd you aim at?
Center mass.
Okay. And why'd you fire?
Because he was, I saw him reaching for a gun, and I was in fear that he would shoot me if he pulled that firearm out.
Okay. Were you ever relieved of your firearm?
After, I forget his name, but a sergeant took my firearm and duty belt.
Okay. After you discharged, and you holstered up, I'm assuming, at some point?
After we had his arms pulled behind and the gun was pulled from his possession, that's when I reholstered.
Okay. And did you ever take your gun out of the holster again prior to being relieved of the firearm by a supervisor?
No.
Okay. And did you have both your magazines on you at the time?
Yes.
And were you relieved of those as well? Sorry, were you relieved of those as well?
Yes, my full duty belt.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have any questions.
Have anything for us?
No.
We're going to end the recording at 1:52 p.m.
Boston Police Officer Leroy Fernandes.
Good afternoon. My name is Sergeant John Fanning, Fanning. I'm a member of the Massachusetts State Police, assigned to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office, currently assigned to the Homicide Section. Today, we're here with other individuals, and I will let them introduce themselves. And this is in regards to the officer-involved shooting that occurred on Route 9 at Hammond Street in the town of Brookline. Here with me for this interview, the current time is 12:59 p.m. and it is February 12th, 2020. Currently here with me are
Attorney Kenneth Anderson, ANDERSON for Officer Leroy Fernandes. And just before passing on the names here, I'm just going to put on the record, pursuant to a conversation with Assistant District Attorney Mark Lee in the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, that Officer Fernandes understands that he has certain rights and protections under the Constitution, that he's here voluntarily, that he's waiving such rights, and he's going to give a voluntary statement regarding his actions on February 7th of 2020.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead, Officer Fernandes, introduce yourself.
Police Officer Leroy Fernandes, last name Fernandes.
And Sergeant Detective Richard Lewis, signed Boston Police Homicide Unit.
Thank you, gentlemen. So, Officer Fernandes, on February 7th, 2020, what was your assignment that day?
That day I was assigned to the Bravo 650, which is a walking beat which covers the Dudley Triangle area, Dudley Station.
Is that your normally assigned station?
No, sir. I work out of District B3. I was doing an overtime shift in District B2.
And what were your assigned hours that day?
That day I was doing, that shift was a 7:30 to 4 p.m.
Okay. And at some point that morning, did you hear a radio transmission?
Yes. That morning, there was a call for a person with a gun being assigned to the Dudley's Triangle car. I wasn't the primary for the call, so I didn't respond to that call at first.
Okay. And then what happened after that?
We were just driving around the Dudley Triangle area, and then we hear a transmission for shots fired. We heard shots fired, so at that point, we decided to respond.
Can you just say, when you say we, who's with you?
I had a partner with me, first name Corey.
Corey?
Yeah, Corey. What's his first name?
Corey Thomas.
Corey Thomas. Police Officer Corey Thomas.
So just to be clear, the first unit's dispatched to, what you believe, Brigham and Women's Hospital?
Yes, that area.
That area,
of
okay.
hospitals.
A shots fired call comes in,
Yes.
and now you were also assigned to that.
Wasn't assigned to it yet, but when an officer calls shots fired, you go, you help.
Correct. So what happens after that?
At that point, we start making our way towards the Longwood Medical area. As we are on Tremont, we're approaching Huntington Ave. We hear on the radio that the motor vehicle is fleeing and it's turning right. If we're coming to the hospital area, their right is our left. So at this point, we turn left. We're driving down Huntington Ave now left, and we see, I see a bunch of cruisers. I'm driving the vehicle. See a bunch of cruisers in pursuit of a motor vehicle.
Where do you think you are in that? So are you now joined behind all of these cruises?
Yes, on Huntington Ave.
Okay. And walk us a little bit through that failure to stop up Route 9.
Okay. So as we keep going down Route 9, at this point I'm just behind cruisers. I don't see that vehicle in front of me. There's another radio transmission for someone, I don't know who said it, but someone said that they can't see the vehicle anymore that they were pursuing. At this point I observed one cruiser turn to the side as if he may have turned off the route and maybe turned to a side street. One cruiser turns off, I continue straight through, and as I approach the intersection, I'm not 100% sure what the name of the street, but as I approach the intersection, I observed debris would appear to be from a motor vehicle accident. As I proceed through the intersection, I observed that motor vehicle that we were pursuing, it appeared to be crashed and stalled out. At this point, I exit my motor vehicle and I see officers running towards an area on this Route 9. I exit my motor vehicle at this point because of the nature of the call. So as soon as I exit my motor vehicle, I take out my department-issued firearm and I follow officers who seem to be in pursuit of the suspect. As we get to this this grassy, patchy area, I observe the suspect it appeared to be in between a tree. At this time, all officers are giving commands. Show us your hands. Show us your hands. At this point, the male reaches into his, it appeared to be like a jacket of some sort, reaches in as if he's going to pull something, and at that point, shots were fired.
Okay. So I'll have a map that will help direct you a little bit into the area, so we can go over that if you feel comfortable with that. Was this one from the previous one, Ken?
No. Yeah, that was actually Officer Figueroa's signature.
Okay.
On that one.
So I'll just date this one, and we can kind of dig in a little bit more to that. I want to backtrack just a little bit. I probably should have grabbed this information a little bit earlier, but you, as far as you have your normal duty belt on,
Yes.
all your issued gear,
Yes.
nothing, what you would normally wear for a patrol shift.
Yes.
Did you have a body-worn camera on that day?
No, sir.
No, and that's because you were on an overtime shift.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to direct you a little bit here. And for the purposes of the audio recording, I'm using a Google Map image, which is the area of Boylston Street, or more commonly known as Route 9, just past the intersection of Hammond Street, which is in the town of Brookline. We're very close here to the Newton line, but ultimately you understand that this interaction happened near a parking lot?
Yes.
Okay. So does any of this look familiar to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you could you just put a mark where you believe that crash was? And what this would be is, actually I'll look at this one so I don't have to keep pulling yours back. This way here is going to be Route 9 westbound, heading out towards, let's just say, 128. And then this is going to be Route 9 eastbound. So where did you first observe that crash that you had mentioned? If you could just put an X.
So as we're coming down, which is Boylston Street now, there's a bunch of debris in this area right like here.
Okay.
Which appears to be some sort of an accident happened there. Okay. So there was debris in this area right here.
All right. So you navigate through that intersection?
Yes, sir.
And where do you roughly think you observed the suspect vehicle disabled?
About right here.
Okay. All right. Where do you think that your cruiser is in relation to that vehicle? If you can recall.
I want to say right before this sidewalk, there was like another cruiser that was here.
Okay. And so, if you can, do you remember where the suspect was, where you had interaction with him?
Yes, sir. So I exited my cruiser from here, and there was like this grassy area, and then ran, following all the other officers going here, and right here, like in this area, in the area of the. It was kind of muddy because it was a rainy day, but whatever you call that, the patch of dirt or whatever, I don't know what it's called.
Mulch bed?
Mulch, yes. That's what
Okay. And so when you make it around, do you recall how many officers are calling out commands?
no, so as soon as I get there, I do it like an initial scan. It's hard to see faces and who's there. I do remember seeing one trooper to my left, one state trooper, one Massachusetts state trooper to my left, but I'm more focused on the individual.
Correct. And could you just walk us through again exactly what the movements are, and if you remember anything that you said or that you heard being said by the officers that were there?
I remember people saying, officers saying, "Show me your hands, show me your hands," and the suspect just reached into what appeared to be a jacket, and as if he was gesturing to pull something, and then shots were fired. And then after this, the trooper who was standing to my left now kind of takes over, and because it's just a bunch of officers, people come in from behind, and we're telling everybody to clear the backdrop. And the trooper just like, "All right, you holster," and he's looking at me. He's like, "Holster, holster." At that point, I holster my firearm, and the trooper appears to be putting on gloves. And then there's another officer there, I don't know who it was, continues to be drawn down on the suspect, and the trooper goes in and removes something from the suspect.
I don't think it's maybe clearly stated, just to clarify, do you fire your service weapon?
Yes, sir.
And that was based on the threat assessment that you made at the time?
Yes, sir. Due to the suspect reaching, I was in fear that he could either shoot me, kill me, or shoot one of the other officers and harm one of the other officers unseen.
Do you recall how many times you fired?
Approximately, it felt like 2 times.
Do you remember what the suspect was doing or how his body was positioned prior to reaching into his jacket?
He seemed like as if he was trying to stand, but he wasn't standing. He wasn't standing up.
But he was facing towards you?
Facing us.
Okay. So the trooper holsters that you remember, and he puts on gloves.
Yes.
He then goes in to secure the suspect.
Yes.
As he's securing the suspect, he discovers a weapon?
The trooper, it appeared to me that he discovered a firearm from where I was standing.
Okay. What do you recall after that, if anything?
At that point, I kind of stepped back away from the area. I remember there was a male who was recording on some form of device, trying to stand on one of these and record, and I told him to get out of the road and back up, and then I just backed away from the scene. Like on one of the I think it's a guardrail.
Okay.
There was a male.
Could you just put a little
Yes.
circle on it? And we're just noting where this individual recording was standing for the purposes of the recording. And then, so what I'm gonna put here. Could you just maybe put under that maybe suspect vehicle under that X? VEH is fine. And then over here, just maybe put an initial crash observed or crash observed. And then here you can just draw a line saying cruiser. Perfect.
Just a few quick ones there. I'm not sure if it was that. Maybe I missed it. How many years do you have as a Boston police officer?
In April, it'll be 2 years from graduating the academy.
Okay. Any law enforcement experience prior to that?
I worked at Nassau Street Jail for a couple of months prior to joining Boston Police.
Okay. Did you ever own a gun prior to becoming a Boston police officer?
No.
Okay. When you stopped your vehicle, when you exited your vehicle, where was your vehicle? Where'd you exit the vehicle in relation to that intersection?
It was it was by what appeared to be like an entry ramp to some sort of a business.
Okay, so after the intersection, after the point
Yes,
of the accident.
after the intersection. Yes.
Okay.
Made it through the intersection.
Yep. And just for the record, just because it's taped, you're indicating that he was reaching into his jacket with his right hand. Is that correct?
I don't recall the hand. I don't recall the hand.
Okay.
Reaching.
All right. And again, on the map, you're indicating that you circled around to the left of that mulch pit.
Yes, after exiting my cruiser.
Yep. Did you observe any officers circle around to the right of that mulch pit, if you recall?
I don't recall.
Okay. Can you identify any of the officers who were on scene? Did you know any of them?
Yes. My partner for that day tour, Corey Thomas. Thompson? Corey Thomas? Corey Thomas. And I remember seeing police officer Brenda Figueroa as well.
Okay. Did you observe them discharge?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I didn't observe them discharge.
Okay. Do you know where they were when you discharged?
No, I only remember the trooper being to my left.
Okay. When you did discharge, what were you aiming at?
Aiming at the suspect's center of mass.
Okay. And were you ever relieved of your firearm?
Yes, sir.
Do you know who relieved you of your firearm?
I wrote it down. I don't have it on me right now, but I did write it down in my notebook.
Okay. At the time the trooper asked you to reholster, did you ever remove your firearm from your holster again prior to turning that over to a detective or a supervisor?
Did not remove my firearm after reholstering.
Okay. Did you have both your magazines on you at the time of this incident?
Yes, all my magazines.
And were you relieved of those magazines as well?
Yes, they took my open belt.
Okay, thank you.
Just a couple questions for the tape. It's Ken Anderson. Officer Fernandes, I don't know if it came out. You were in full Boston Police uniform that day?
Yes.
When you first hear the call, it comes in as a man with a gun, and you and your partner stay in the Dudley Triangle area, correct?
Yes.
You then hear that it's shots fired, and then you respond and see the pursuit going out through Huntington Ave, under the bridge, and into Brookline, correct?
Yes.
And then you end up several miles into Brookline by Hammond Ave.
Yes.
On that course of travel, did you hear any other information on the radio about the suspect or what else had happened back at Brigham and Women's Hospital?
I remember hearing that shots were fired, and that there was another radio transmission that the suspect pointed a firearm, I believe, at a valet driver or something along those lines.
And on the pursuit, though, did you ever hear that someone has actually been shot or injured back at Brigham and Women's Hospital?
I believe an officer said that they did, that the suspect may have been struck.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
You have any questions? Thanks for your time today. And we're going to conclude the interview at 1:17 p.m.
Boston Police Officer Brenda Figueroa.
Good morning. Today is Wednesday, February 12th. The time is 12:17 in the afternoon. My name is Ramir Antoine. First name R-O-M-E-R-E. Last name A-N-T-O-I-N-E. I'm a sergeant with the Massachusetts State Police, assigned to the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. With me, I have the following people.
I'm Mark Sullivan. I'm a sergeant detective assigned to the Fire and Discharge Investigation Team.
Attorney Kenneth Anderson, that's A-N-D-E-R-S-O-N, and just before continuing, if I could just memorialize something on the tape pursuant to conversations with Assistant District Attorney Mark Lee from the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. I just want to put on the record that I'm here with Officer Figueroa voluntarily, that she understands that she has certain constitutional rights and protections, and that we're waiving those protections, and we're going to provide a voluntary statement regarding her actions on February 7th of 2020.
My name is Brenda Figueroa, Figueroa. I'm assigned to the Boston Police Department, Area B2.
Brenda, what's your ID number?
148264.
Brenda, how long have you been with the Boston Police Department?
Approximately 2 years, and on April 2020 will be 2 years.
And how many districts have you been assigned to?
I've been assigned to 3.
What are the districts?
My first rotation was in Area A1, which covers the downtown crossing area. My second rotation was B2, which is Roxbury. My third rotation was D14, which is the Brighton and Alston area. And for my permanent assignment, I was able to go to B2, which is Roxbury.
Okay. And what shift do you work, Brenda?
I'm assigned to days now.
Days. And do you ride in a two-man vehicle or a one-man service vehicle?
I am a service unit most of the time.
Okay. We're going to bring your attention to last Friday. Do you recall that day?
I do recall that day.
Were you working that day?
I was working that day.
And what shift were you working that day?
I was working the day tour.
And what was your assignment for the day?
That day, I was assigned to the Bravo 454 days.
And the Bravo in front of the 454 means that's Area B2, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you just run us through your day on Friday?
Roll call was at 7:30 a.m. I was given my assignment, which was the Bravo 454 days unit, which is a service unit. It's just a one-man vehicle.
And what area is the Bravo 454? What sector would that cover?
That sector covers the Mission Hill area. It covers a little bit of the Brigham and Women's area. So kind of that area, all of it together.
Go ahead. Continue.
Around 9, I'm not sure the exact time, the dispatcher informed us of a person with a gun at Brigham and Women's Hospital. I remember the dispatcher calling me on the radio saying for me to go down there to the Brigham and Women's Hospital. Probably making me the primary unit, but just told me to go down there. I still remember having my yogurt in my hand, and I acknowledged her and said, yes, I acknowledge I have that. I'm going down on Tremont. I believe another unit was already in that area, so they said that they would be going to the Brigham and Women's Hospital. Usually when we have a person with a gun call, it's a priority one for us. So we have I had my sirens, my lights on. I was on Tremont, right around Roxbury Crossing, or a little before that, maybe on Malcolm X, when I heard the officer saying, shots fired. Immediately, my heart was maybe 100. I didn't know what to expect, but I was going to, but my mind was focused. Then I hear officers, I don't know who it was, saying he's taking off. So I remember following other cruisers, maybe like 3 cruisers in front of me. I don't recall the streets that I went, but I know we were all behind a gray vehicle. The other officer was letting us know where we're going, the streets, just making sure that the dispatcher knows where we're at. And then I'm like on maybe like not a highway, but just a smaller two vehicle way, and I see a lot of debris. I'm like, this is definitely, I don't know where I am, but I'll figure it out. I see like a motor vehicle accident, and then everyone presses their brakes, and I press my brake, and I still, for some reason, I still have the mind to press on my body camera, just in case, because we had the dispatcher had informed us that someone was hurt, someone had been shot at Brigham and Women's Hospital. My thought was that obviously this individual or this person that we're going afterwards has a gun and has hurt somebody already. So I press on my brakes. I remember my yogurt flying, and all in my cruiser. I get out of my cruiser, not knowing what I'm going for. Most likely, I'm going with 100%. I'm going with someone with a person with a gun. My gun was out. My camera was activated because I wanted to make sure that this is captured. I see this individual on his knees. There were maybe, I don't know how many officers, but I remember having a state trooper on my side, and we begged, when I mean we begged this person to drop his gun, show us his hands, and I remember him smirk, like a laugh. I see it, I see the object coming out, and I was afraid.
Take your time.
I'm sorry. I was afraid I was going to get shot. Someone else was going to get shot. And as soon as I see it pulling out, I said either it's me or someone innocent is going to get really hurt. And I used my gun. I don't recall how many shots were fired. I just remember it was just an incident that happened in a matter of seconds. I can't tell you the number of seconds, but I remember taking a deep breath. I put my gun away. I remember the state trooper saying, "We gotta make sure that we don't get hurt, because we need to make sure that this individual or this person that almost pulled a gun on us, or like was mentioning to pull out the gun at us and shoot us, we had to make sure that we cuffed him." So I remember asking an officer, I'm like, "Give me your gloves, because I'm not letting this officer go alone. We don't know what he has." So I remember I told the state trooper, I'm not sure if I recall, but I did say, "You're not going alone, I'm going with you." At that moment, I asked another officer, "Give me your gloves, I'm going to go with the officer." I approached this individual, and I secured his hands. I grabbed the other hand, and I cuffed him. At that moment, I remember seeing a black gun, and that's the gun that this person had on him. And the scene from there on, that's all I recall. I remember at that moment I was in shock. I said, "Breathe." I told the officers, "Breathe, just breathe. We're going to get through this, just breathe." And from there on, it's all I remember.
Okay. I'm going to back you up to the time you get the 911 call. Okay?
Right.
When you get the 911 call, what's the nature of the call you're going to?
It's a person with a gun.
So the dispatcher says it's a 911 call, a person with a gun.
Right.
At what address? Do you know the location?
Brigham Women's.
Is it up on? If you don't remember, is it on Francis Street? Is it on Funwood? Is it on Vining?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I just know where Brigham and Women's is. Like
but you're going to a call for a person with a gun. At that
person
point.
with a gun.
If I'm wrong, correct me. On the way to that call, you hear another officer on the scene saying shots fired. Correct.
Correct.
Okay. At some point, a pursuit begins. Correct.
Correct.
What information do you learn from other radio broadcasts on that pursuit? Are you hearing officers say that they hit the guy? Are you hearing anything in the pursuit? What are you learning during the pursuit?
I'm learning that this. I'm not sure if I recall, but someone was hurt from this incident. Someone was shot.
So you learned prior to your interaction in Brookline that somebody shot.
Someone was shot.
Okay.
This person had a gun and was pointing it at people. I remember hearing the dispatcher mentioning a valet employee or something like that. That someone was shot. So my instinct is this individual is shooting at people. It's hurting innocent people. That's my first thing that crossed my mind.
You described an object coming out of the suspect. Do you see the object?
I did see the handle of it, and
Okay.
I see portion of it.
And what do you believe that object to be when it's coming out?
It was a gun.
Okay. And you again see that you confirm that object when you handcuff him. Am I correct?
Yes, I
And where do you
remember.
see that object?
It was like around it was in his controlled area.
In his torso area?
It was, yeah.
And it's in his hand when you
Yes.
first see it. And when you go to handcuff him and you're rolling him, do you see it again?
I remember seeing the gun.
Is it on the ground? Is it still in his person?
It happened so fast
know,
that I can't really.
Okay. And just to back up, is the Bravo 454, are you in full uniform? Are you in plain clothes?
Full uniform.
Full uniform. You driving a marked vehicle or unmarked vehicle?
Driving a marked vehicle.
And that day tour, did you work any previous shift to that? Is that your first tour of the day? Did you sleep all night?
That was it was my final tour duty. So it was I was going on days off.
And at some point after the incident, are you relieving your weapon on scene? Someone take your firearm?
Someone took my firearm.
Okay, on scene, correct?
On scene.
With your magazines?
Yes,
Okay. And are you transported to a hospital at some point?
I was.
What hospital are you transported to?
St. Elizabeth's.
Are you relieved of duty at some point?
I was.
And getting back to the discharge scene in Brookline, when you're on scene there, are you hearing multiple verbal commands? Do you hear people screaming at him? Can you describe the verbal commands that are going on?
We begged this guy. We begged him, and the fact that we told him numerous times, drop the gun, show us your hands. I remember yelling at him. We were all yelling, and he did not comply to any of our commands.
Can you just describe his reaction when you were given verbal commands?
He was not listening to us. I remember a smirk on his face, and it all happened in a matter of seconds, but I remember all of us were yelling at him, not just one officer. We were all trying to beg him to drop the gun. Drop the gun. Show us your hands.
Okay, and bringing back, the incident was about 9:20, 9:30 in the morning, is that correct?
It was in the morning.
Okay. Can you describe the lighting and the weather at that point?
Well, it was kind of like foggy, rainy.
But daylight.
Yeah, daylight, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Everything was still visible.
And when the officers there's a few officers on scene at the time of discharge, right?
Right.
Are you guys talking about backdrops and crossfire situations at that point?
Yes, the state trooper. I remember more officers after the incident happened were trying to go in a circle, and the state trooper was yelling at everyone, "Get out of the way of fire!" So he instructed us to holster, which means like put our weapon away. And then that's when he wanted to go towards the person that was on the floor down, and that's when I decided to go with him because I didn't want him to go alone. And I remember asking the officer next to me, I don't recall who it was, but I'm like, give me your gloves. And I remember with the state trooper, I was like, you're not going alone, I'm going with you. And yeah.
Following the firearm discharge, do you notify operations of the discharge?
I'm sorry.
Do you notify operations of your discharge?
I did. I said shots fired. Suspect is down. Suspect is shot. I believe I said that. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But I did say shots fired. Shots fired. If it went through, I'm not sure because it was a chaos. I think everyone was trying to get on their portable radio. Everyone was. But I wanted to make sure if I was able to get it, I wanted to know the dispatcher and whoever was coming down, what's going on. And by me saying suspect is down, just want to let every officer know, whoever's coming in towards us, to know what's going on. I'm not sure if I went through or not, but everyone I think wanted to do the same.
Okay. And do you recall officers tending aid to the suspect at that point?
I don't recall.
Do you remember if EMS showed up to tend aid?
EMS was there in seconds.
Okay. At the time you fired, why did you fire?
Because I know I was gonna get either shot. The person next to me was gonna get shot. The person on my other side was gonna get shot. Or anyone very close was gonna get shot.
If you had to say you're in fear for your life.
And I was so afraid.
Do you remember where this person reached for the weapon? You said you saw him reach.
I don't recall what hand, but it was this area right here.
You're pointing to your torso
Like
area,
torso
chest, stomach area?
Sorry, the torso area. And he was on the, of course he was on the floor, but I think he was like kneeling because I could see him. And we, like I said, we begged him. And I was very afraid. I don't know what was going to happen in the next seconds. And then he started acting, and that's when the whole incident occurred.
Was he facing you at that moment? Or you said you saw him kneeling.
I was right in front of him.
Okay. And this is with the victim that this person we're describing. It's a male.
It's a male.
Okay. Male individual.
A male.
White male.
White male.
White male. Okay.
I remember his tattoos on his. When I cuffed him, I remember his tattoos on his hand.
You know what the tattoos were?
No. I just remember him tatted. His hands were tatted, or one side of his hands was tatted.
What kind of firearm do you carry?
A Glock 22.
Glock 22. And how many rounds?
We have 15 and plus one.
Okay. And then any extra magazines? along with that?
Yep, extra magazines on our duty belt.
Okay. And at one point, did you
No.
put in another magazine?
I don't recall exchanging. Changing my mag or reloading my gun. I didn't go empty.
Do you remember where you were in relation to the motor vehicle pursuit? What position you were in?
I'm sorry, what do you mean, like what position?
Oh, were you like
was
the
in?
first vehicle pursuing, second, third?
No, I don't recall. I know I was probably one of the first to arrive.
Yeah, because you said the other officer was giving locations.
Right,
and
exactly.
you were
I just
following.
remember I was following everyone. I don't know if I was the third or the fourth, but I was one of the first that was there.
At the time of discharge, how close do you believe you were to the suspect?
I
How many
can't.
feet?
I can't give you the feet, but I know I was very close.
Okay.
Very close.
We're going to show you a Google map of the area. Do you recognize this? It's a Google map of the area of 1195 Boylston Street, Brookline. Do you recognize that at all?
I recommend the highway, like it was a two-way vehicle. I do remember.
Okay.
I remember we were like on Brown. I don't know, like
Mulch.
yeah, and then I think there was a CVS. I just recall wanting a ginger ale right after because my stomach was upset. So I was like, I need a ginger. Like in my mind, I was like, I need a ginger ale right now. Trying to like calm my nerves down in my stomach that was going in circles, and trying to process what had just occurred.
Okay. I'm just going to reference a few points here.
If you want to use that, get a red pen. It'll show up better.
So, I'm pointing to the area of the mulch area just after the gas station, and this would be CVS. Do you recognize this area?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Can you, if you could, can you just mark over here the area of your firearm discharge?
Right around here. I mean, I think he was here, and I was like right here.
Okay.
And this is where we were all the officers, and he was right here.
Okay. Was anybody in your backdrop at that point? Do you remember any officers being back here?
After the fact, yes, some officers arrived, but the incident was done. The shots were done, and then the state trooper instructed the officers who were right here to back up. At that point, my eyes were on this individual.
The suspect.
Exactly, because I don't know, that's who I'm looking at. My eyes were on his hands and his body everywhere. So I can't really tell you. I just remember a statey being there and other officers being next to me.
Besides the officers, was there anybody else in the background, like any civilians or anybody like you guys told to like stay away or anything?
Yeah, after I believe after I remember some officers were yelling to people, get out of the way, get out of the way. Even before we discharged, we told everyone, get out of the way, and people were starting to run. So at that moment, I don't recall seeing other people like in the area where we could have, injured them or any of that matter, but we did instruct people to get out of the way.
Okay. Can you just sign that And put today's date, which is February 12th, 2020.
I want to sign time
Oh,
on the
right
bottom,
here?
the
Okay,
white
I'm
part.
So today's the 12th
Yes,
and the time.
12:38 p.m. And you can sign it, please.
And looking at that scene, did you have any chance to cover at that point?
To recover?
Cover. Did you have any cover at that scene?
You're just shaking your head no,
We
but
did-
this is
we
being
did-
recorded.
I'm sorry, we did not.
And to explain, you know what cover means, to explain
Yeah.
cover, can
Yep.
you explain it to us what you think that means?
Cover we can use as an object,
Barrier.
a barrier like the vehicle, the door of
Yeah.
the vehicle, an instrument to protect us from
So
getting
basically
hurt.
you were wide open, there was nothing in
Nope.
between you and the suspect?
Nope.
Okay, nothing further.
Nothing further either.
I have nothing to add.
Okay.
At this time, we're going to conclude the interview. It's 12:39 p.m. And thank you, Brenda, for coming in today.
Massachusetts State Police Trooper Paul Conneely.
Okay, my name is Gerard Metaliano. I'm a lieutenant with the Massachusetts State Police, assigned to Norfolk District Attorney's Office. And we're here today investigating use of lethal force in the town of Brookline. With me also is Sergeant from Boston PD.
My name is Mark Sullivan. I'm a sergeant detective with homicide, Sullivan, first name's MARC.
My name is Paul Conneely. I'm a trooper with the Massachusetts State Police. My last name is spelled Conneely.
Attorney Dan Moynihan, on behalf of Trooper Paul Conneely, representing Trooper Paul Conneely.
Paul, what's your current assignment now with the State Police?
I'm a trooper assigned to the Milton Barracks on days.
On February 7th, what was your duty assignment?
I was guest patrolled to the Boston Barracks, and I had the Sector 5 guest patrol for the days.
Okay, and Sector 5 consists of what?
It's the Route 9 area, Route 9 from Wellesley to Brookline, the parkways, West Broad Street Parkway, Hamilton Parkway, and any properties up there.
Okay. And your patrol that day, you're in a fully marked cruiser?
I was, yeah, Cruiser 1195.
Full uniform?
Yes, winter uniform, yes.
Full duty belt?
Yes, sir.
And duty belt consists of two spare mags, was mag in also your weapon, correct?
Yes, sir.
And how many rounds in that weapon?
We carry 10 mags of 10. The gun has 10 and 1 in the chamber, and then 2 spare mags of 10 each.
So the weapon in your holster is going to have 11 rounds in it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Prior to you becoming involved in the pursuit, why don't you start there and describe how you did get involved in it?
That morning, I was stopping cars Route 9. I had taken an earlier call for a crash that I believe turned out to be a paper exchange that left before I got there on Hamilton Parkway. I was up on Route 9 stopping cars, and at one point I was up by Chestnut Street westbound. I heard on the scanner, I was listening to Area B, Area B came on over the scanner that someone had pulled a gun on a security officer at the Brigham Hospital. I heard the call, I was clearing the stop. I went up, made a flip westbound, I went up Chestnut Street and made the flip eastbound, I'll head that direction. I tend to go to Boston police calls just to be in the area if something happens. As I was going westbound, the scanner was not working, the signal was not coming in great. I heard something about we're on Fenwood Street, so I started thinking something else had happened. I didn't know what. And then I turned my lights and sirens and kind of started heading. I figured it's either a foot chase or something. As I'm making my way there, a little bit more came in that I couldn't understand. At one point, I heard something about shot. That's all I heard, just a shot. It was this, again, the scanner technology not working properly. Still making my way eastbound. I asked Station H if they could monitor Channel 3. That was actually Channel 2 in Boston, with Area B. They said they weren't getting back to as much. I then heard, I couldn't tell what I heard at that point. I remember someone on our channel said they were on Huntington Ave. So I was thinking, maybe it was a foot chase because I know that area very, very well. At that point, then I continued eastbound. I heard Boston. Then I heard entering Route 9. I assumed it was eastbound, coming off of Huntington Ave. Next thing I heard, so I continued west. Knowing where I could set up stop sticks. At this point, obviously, I knew it was a car chase, even though I hadn't heard it specifically. I continued eastbound, knowing there's a cutout in Brookline where I could use the guardrail, and my theory being I could throw in stop sticks and hopefully end it. As I'm almost there, as I come through Hammond, I hear we're at Chestnut Hill Ave 9. Pretty good, so I knew they were moving pretty good. I got up to the cutout, and I called Station H, and I said, hey, can you find out what's going on before I throw stop sticks? Is a Boston cop shot? Is he shooting at the cops, or is knowing I'm not gonna throw sticks at him, I'm gonna get if he's gonna be shooting at us. At that point, I looked up, and all I saw was the car coming at me, because it was an electric car, which I didn't register. It just went by, and then I saw several Boston cruisers. I got on the radio and said, it just passed me. I believe the quote was, sugar, it just passed me, Radio Gold. But I knew, I made the flip, and I had known that traffic was bad at Route 9 at Hammond, and I knew at that speed he was gonna crash. I made the flip. I heard a Boston, came over to Boston. I had locked in the channel, now it was coming in. Boston cruiser said, we lost them. I saw two cruisers make a right off of Route 9. I didn't follow them because I looked ahead, and I saw the massive crash that had happened. I called for an ambulance right away. I called Station H, they start an ambulance. We have a crash. I thought it was just one car. I didn't realize it was numerous. I saw that his car had significantly gone through the intersection, almost past the gas station. I saw him bail out. I continued through the intersection, weaved my way through the intersection. I saw that he had run off, sort of to the right. I came around his car. As I came around his car, I knew that he was running. I was like, I'll just either chase him down in my cruiser or I'll stay in the cruiser at this point. Everyone else is bailing out, running after him. As I came around, he had fallen on the mulch. There's like a mulch area there. Mm-hmm. I then saw that he was not going too far. I didn't know anything else. I just knew he had fallen down. And I thought he was just struggling to get up, or a Boston cop had tripped him. I had no idea. So I get out. I run up onto the sidewalk. He's kind of going down, trying to get up. He's getting up on one knee. I was originally going to go tackle him. He had both hands on at that point. I was originally going to go tackle him. As I went to go tackle him, Boston officer to my left, thank God he was paying attention. He yelled, he's got a gun. He's got a gun. It's on his chest. I remember clearly hearing that. Stopped, drew my weapon. He was on like one knee, I believe, two knees. I can't, but his chest was up. And he had reached the Boston cop again. It's on his chest. It's on his chest. He's grabbing it, and they were yelling. I didn't say a word, but they were screaming. At least I don't believe I said a word. Screaming that. Joe dropped the gun. All the proper orders were given. I had my gun out. He reached into his chest. The Boston, the officer was doing great commands. Continued to give commands, and I saw the hand come up. And at that point, he's going to pull a gun on us. We're not getting shot. And it's we're not all getting shot. I'm going to protect everyone around us and protect the public, so I fired my rounds. At that point, when I realized the threat was over, I holstered my weapon. I know I gave orders. I know I gave orders till I started, because it started getting, we had Boston cops running at us with guns drawn. I know we had cops, now I realize we had cops all around us. I believe I told the Boston officer next to me, you keep cover. And I told everyone else to holster their weapons. There was a female officer to my right. I told her we're gonna glove up, put our gloves on, we're gonna go up, take him in custody. When we did that, I told everybody, make sure your gun's away. I believe that's what I said. And we went up, I told her, you take his right hand, I'll take his left hand. We approached, I grabbed his left. She came around to my right. She took custody of his right hand. As I was holding his left hand, and she pulled his right hand. The gun was in his right hand. She pulled his hand out. I reached in underneath him, and I took control of the gun. And at that point, I just made some radio transmissions, I believe, for an ambulance. Made sure told everyone no officers were injured and so forth. That kind of. And the last thing I did is remember my hand was bloody. The gun was bloody, and I dropped it actually right on the mulch. I don't know how far from it, but it was right on the mulch. And that's after that. That was Calvi arrived, and that was pretty much the end of it.
Do you remember who put the cuffs on? Was it her or?
The cuffs came over my left shoulder. That's all I can tell you. Okay. I handed off his left hand. Someone grabbed his right. And I think the left hand was the last put in cuffs.
Do you remember how many shots you fired?
I don't. I don't, to be honest with you.
When you say you flipped around, just for the purpose of this tape, you flipped around. You're heading west now when you flipped, correct?
I was going eastbound. I had stopped at the cutout. I had actually positioned my cruiser waiting to say whether I could deploy stop sticks or not. Right. Obviously, I never got the chance because of the speed. And then once the Boston cruisers went by me, I then followed in behind them to whatever. Obviously, what happened, but my intentions, I'm there for support for that.
Mm-hmm. How many? You're familiar with the area, correct?
Very.
And how many years have you been a state police officer?
I've been a trooper since 2004, so we're talking 15, and then I was a Newton cop for 8 years prior to that. And I've had a great relationship with the Brookline cops. I have a phenomenal relationship with pretty much all the Boston cops in that area. They all pretty much know me. So I've known the area between Brigham Hospital. I patrolled Roxbury out of Brighton forever. I've been in Roxbury, Heath Street, all those areas. So.
Any other specialized training?
I was in K-9 for 5 years. I have SWAT training from Newton PD. Other than that.
And so a combination, how many years together in law enforcement altogether? 23?
23 plus.
If you saw the pursuit coming at you, if you had to estimate how fast he was moving through that scene there when you knew he was going to crash?
He was ripping. I mean, he was ripping. And the bizarre part with the whole thing was, and I didn't really stop, it was being an electric car, all I heard was, like, it.
Is it fair to say that, in your opinion, it was well over 80 miles an hour?
Oh, yeah, easily. And the Boston police were giving him the distance, to slow down. They weren't pushing him. They were giving him the distance to, not pushing him into that speed. That was speed all by himself.
Right. And that's probably why they lost him.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that, especially too, you're also coming over a hill.
It would have been unsafe to
keep up
with him.
Plus you had rain and so forth.
Just one question. Sergeant Sullivan, for the record, when you see the suspect go into his torso area, do you see the gun coming out? Do you see a handle of a gun?
No, honestly, he had his hand on something coming out. That's the best.
He had his hand on something coming out.
I mean, I'm hearing gun. He's got a gun. I see the gun, and I know those phrases said. So he was coming up with that gun,
and then
despite ignoring our commands.
Okay, then you see a gun in his right hand when you roll him.
Correct.
Nothing.
When you contacted Station H, did they respond back to you that somebody had been shot up at the Brigham?
No, I had no clue what happened. I really had no clue what happened at the Brigham, other than the initial call, and they'd given a plate out, but the plate came back to nothing. I actually ran the plate and see just that they had broadcast, and even Boston PD said we don't have a matching record. I believe they had the first three, if I remember correctly. So I really had nothing at first. I know other than I heard the word shot, and now this is now I'm involved.
When prior to you firing your weapon, were you aware of other officers to your right and to your left? And if so, can you describe, to the best of your memory, how they were positioned?
Honestly, I can only remember the guy to my left.
Okay.
Because I remember coming up to him, and I think a lot of what I don't know. To be honest, I have no idea because I think things filled in as the situation was fluid.
When you got to the point where you had to fire, do you remember other people firing too?
Just the officer to my left.
So you were only aware of just...
That's all I was aware of, yeah. I had no idea.
Okay. Any further questions?
I've got nothing further.
Just, prior to you shooting, you had heard of the shots fired, correct?
Yes.
And prior to you shooting, the Boston officers were yelling he had a gun, correct?
He said he had a gun. I believe he even said he had it on his chest. I see a gun on his chest.
And prior to you shooting, he was reaching into his coat, correct?
He had, yes, he had brought his right hand, and I'm not, his body position I can't remember exactly, but he was, I think, on his knees. He had reached into his hand and brought his hand to his chest.
And so at that moment that you fired, you have every reason to believe he was reaching into his gun to fire it at you, correct?
Oh, I totally thought he was coming out with a gun and he was going to blast us. And
then, in fact, after the shots were fired, the gun was in his hand, correct?
there was a gun in his right hand. That when the Boston officer dragged his right hand, I could see, as I held his left, you could see the hand come out and the gun was left under his body out of his right hand. So it was actually in his right hand on the ground.
So at the time you shot, you had a fear that your life was at stake, correct?
Oh yeah, I totally feared we were going to get shot.
And you had a fear that the other officers and the public's lives were at stake, correct?
Absolutely we were.
Trooper, one last thing here. This is a diagram of the area. It's not a big one, but I know you're very familiar with it. So this is westbound. You guys coming from Brigham. And does this area look familiar to this is the Star Market parking lot? And you described wood chips.
Yeah, this is the area right here. It's the mulch.
There were cars parked over here.
Yeah.
Okay. And he ends up, the suspect ends up here, correct?
Somewhere in that
Somewhere
area.
in
Yeah, it almost looks different from when you're looking at the air,
Right.
There's no leaves on the trees either.
There's no leaves on the tree, yeah, so forth, so it's a different, yeah. But that'd be about accurate.
And where do you think you parked?
I think my cruiser was perpendicular to the sidewalk, just like I had come around. And his car had made it, I think, this far. I think his car had made it this far, which is incredible. So I drove around it. I parked like perpendicular, right in here somewhere.
Okay, very good. If you just sign that form, that's all. Any further questions?
Nothing further. Thank you, Trooper.
Thank you. Just for the record, Lieutenant, you put an X where he says his cruiser was parked. He believes it, right? Just correct for the record.
Second interview with the Boston police officer, David Godin.
Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, May 19th, 2021, and the time is 2:11 p.m. Speaker is Sergeant Detective John Broderick, assigned to the Boston Police Firearm Discharge Investigation Team. This interview is being conducted with the Boston Police Firearm Discharge Investigation that was initiated following the discharge of firearms by Boston police officers on Friday, February 7th, 2020, in the area of 60 Fenwood Road in Boston, referred to as the Boston scene, in Boylston and Hammond Streets in Brookline, which is referred to as the Brookline scene. The Boston Police incident number is 202-010-292. Assisting in this interview is Sergeant Detective Mark Sullivan. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Sullivan, I'm a Sergeant Detective, assigned to the Firearm Discharge Investigation Team.
Also assisting in this interview is Mass State Police Lieutenant Gerard Matteliano. Lieutenant, can you introduce yourself?
Gerard Matteliano, Detective Lieutenant assigned to the Norfolk DA's Office, State Police Unit.
This interview is with Boston Police Officer David Godin. Officer Godin, can you introduce yourself for the record?
Police Officer David Godin, assigned to District 2.
Police Officer Godin is represented by Attorney Kenneth Anderson. Counselor, can you introduce yourself for the record?
Attorney Kenneth Anderson, ANDERSON.
This interview is being held at Boston Police Headquarters on the second floor of BIS. First off, for the record, this is the second interview conducted with Police Officer Godin. Prior interview was conducted on Wednesday, February 12, 2020 at the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. Lieutenant Matalano and I conducted that interview, and Attorney Anderson was present as well. This interview is being based on new information that's come to the attention of the Firearm Discharge Investigation Team relative to a body-worn camera. Officer Godin is assigned a Boston Police Department body-worn camera with the serial number of X813-25770. Officer Godin, during your interview on February 12, 2020, you were asked if you were assigned a body-worn camera and if it was affixed to your uniform. During that interview, you reported that the body-worn camera was inside your duty bed that was in your Boston Police vehicle and that you had not affixed it to your body, and as such, it did not record any of the incident. Upon review of additional body-worn cameras from the Brookline scene, there's video that indicates that you have a body-worn camera affixed to your outer jacket. During the initial interview, you explained your normal practice as it pertains to your activating your body-worn camera. Can you explain that practice again as it was on that day?
On that specific day, I had my body-worn camera in my duty bag, which would be located on the passenger seat in the front seat of my cruiser.
And you had mentioned that it was your normal practice that you would take the body-worn camera off in between calls where you were on patrol, and you would, if my memory serves me right, you'd affix it to your body upon receiving a call.
Correct.
Okay. And on that date in question, at the time of the incident, 60 Fenwood Road, it was not affixed to your body and it was inside your car.
To the best of my memory on that day, it was not affixed to my body.
Okay. I'm going to show you a photo, 2 photographs. We'll mark this one number 1. And I apologize, it's a little bit blurry, but do you recognize the individual in that picture?
That is me, yes.
Okay, do you want to take a look at it?
No, I see it.
Okay. And this is a little bit of a close-up shot. Does anything draw your attention to that photo?
The body-worn camera.
Okay. We're going to mark that number 2. So for the record, I showed Officer Godin 2 photos of himself from the Brookline scene that depict the body-worn camera on the right side of his jacket, opposite where his badge would be. Having viewed that photo, does this refresh or change your independent memory from that day?
No.
Is it still your recollection that you don't remember fixing that body-worn camera onto you?
Yes, it is.
During the entire incident? Have you ever been involved in stressful situations before that have made you forget some part of the details?
I've never been involved in an incident as stressful as this. So I really can't comment on, because I've never been involved in something like this, so I can't, there's nothing I've done prior to this that was as stressful as this.
Okay. During the investigation, an audit of your body-worn camera was conducted. And as a result of that audit, it appears on Friday, February 7, 2020 at 8:08.24 a.m. is the first time you turned on your body-worn camera and that you made 2 recordings. One was at 8:08 a.m. on Wiggleworth Street, and the second was at 9:09 at 177 Longwood Ave. There were no other recordings made that day. Does that seem accurate?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And for the record, according to the Axon device audit trail, your body-worn camera was powered off at 9:13.21 a.m. on February 7th, and the next activity with that body-worn camera was on that date at 1:06.20 p.m. while the body-worn camera was in custody of the video evidence unit. In addition, the body-worn camera assigned to you did not sync with other BPD-activated body-worn cameras in the area. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Officer Godin, I'm going to ask you just strictly, did you make any attempt to delete any footage from that video?
No.
Okay. And it's your recollection that it was, you have no independent recollection of putting that body-worn camera on either at Fenwood Road or in Brookline?
Correct.
Okay. Lieutenant, do you have any questions?
No.
I just have one. After being involved in that stressful incident before coming in, did you have problems sleeping for the next couple of days because of the stress related to this?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Counselor, do you have any questions?
I have nothing.
Officer Godin, is there anything that we should have asked you think is important for this?
No. No, I don't have any questions at all.
Okay. No further questions? Okay, we're going to conclude this interview. It's 2:17 p.m.